by Ret being the worst spec in Cata.
Yeah, not a fan. Is it Inquisition, Holy Power?
It's the lack of AoE. Like, Divine Storm just feels weird.
It's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I can... And you don't have a Holy Power spender either for AoE.
No, like... I don't know how Scott plays them in dungeons. They just feel horrible.
Oh, I love it. Absolutely love it. Yeah, all right, AoE, but I'm not really bothered about AoE anyway, the majority of the time. You know, single target. As long as I can pump single target, that's all I really care about. And, like, a decent amount of cleave, you know. Hi, everyone, we are live. we're just ranting about classes, and we're here. Everyone all right?
Yeah. Fantastic, man.
Good.
Cool. All right, go. Do you want to do the intro?
Yeah, we're here to talk a little bit about the Season of Discovery 2 Cataclysm Edition tomorrow, because we have no information about what's coming and what to expect. So I'm excited for Season 2 of SOD. I hope you guys are as well. And Majay, thanks for coming back. Willie, thanks for coming back. Scotty, my co-host, my brother from another mother. I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me back. I feel honored, Scott.
I think nowadays it's like it's you that holds me hostage rather than the other way around. It's like are we doing 17 podcasts this week? I'm like, go, just let me have a day off, man. I've got things to do. Pre-patch tomorrow, literally. Well, actually, for me right now, and for any EU guys watching, shout out to all the EU guys. If you play on NA like me and Jay do, it's pre-patch for us tonight, which is like mental. When we go over some of the things we're going to talk about today. So on that, let me just quickly just tell everybody right off the rip before we get chatting exactly what we're covering today. That way you know whether you want to stay or you want to leave. Even though you know we're going to go off topic loads and loads of times talking about stuff that no one cares about. Star Wars Galaxies will probably come up. Season of Discovery will probably come up. Jay will start telling us about how he's like started wearing bunny rabbit onesies because he loves Final Fantasy so much. Like, you know, there's going to be weird stuff, no doubt. But we're going to try and stick to an intro. So we're going to do an intro. So obviously catch up with mainly Willie. Obviously, Jay, you know, you've been on a couple of episodes very, very recently. So if you've got anything that's changed, obviously feel free to pipe up. But definitely catch up with Willie a little bit. We're going to cover the news, which should take about no time at all because there ain't any.
And we're done. Yep.
Yeah, moving on. Yeah, move on. We won't even need a segue to go through into the news.
Segue? You don't say.
Then we've got some viewer questions. So if you're part of my Discord, apparently the link in the description's broken, but just grab it from another video and I'll update that link at some point. Never. You can. There's actually in the social section. There's a viewer question area now where you can post questions, and then we'll cover them. I wanted to call it Subtle's question time, even though Subtle is not part of this podcast and obviously just comes on and guests. But it was actually watching his new podcast, Week's End Tavern, which that's right. Yeah, go. Yeah, you're nodding.
Yeah, it's called what? Yeah.
Yeah, that's where I got the inspiration to actually start doing that from. So shout out to Subtle. Go and check his podcast out if you're into podcasts. So yeah, we're going to do that. The viewer questions, which will be very brief. There's not many, and some of them are just stupid anyway because they're from people we know. Things about cheese and stuff. Ordinarily, we would then go into class of the week, but this week it's going to be role of the week. And I am going to hand over and take a breath in a second. But the reason we're doing role of the week is, again, part of the conversation with Subtle really sort of hit home. And to be fair, me and Willie, we've been talking about doing this episode for, I don't know how long, really, a month, maybe?
Yeah, a little bit, yeah, for sure.
So then it was like, right, yeah, we absolutely have to make sure we do it because there's more concern around the transition from being a Wrath of the Lich King healer into a Cata healer, which is obviously you're really going to see that difference in the pre-patch. So we're going to try and get you ready for that. And to be fair, outside of Go, like Jay knows, like me, in terms of healing, I've healed as a Paladin, Disc Priest, Resto Druid through all tiers of content on Cata, all tiers of content even throughout Wrath Classic as well. And Willie is going main healer, which we'll find out about soon. And Jay has healed a lot on Resto Shaman and most healers, I'd say. Jay, yeah?
Yeah, disc a lot. Never really Holy Pally. And actually Resto Druid I'm probably not very experienced in, but certainly disc and Resto Shaman.
Yeah, so we've got a lot of healing knowledge between us all, so should be quite a good discussion. And then we've got an off-topic section at the end, which I'll be honest with you, it's going to be off-topic and outro. So once we've finished all the healing discussion, if you don't want to stick around and you want to leave, fine, just leave. Because the off-topic is going to be very negative this week. I just want to put it out there. So if you don't want to hear bad things said about the game that you love so much, the end of the podcast might not be for you. Because, again, on Discord, I've set up a bug report channel. Because it's fine when we're all playing the beta and we're finding bugs and then we're reporting them, but we're not actually sharing them with anyone other than Blizzard. And we don't know if Blizzard are even looking at them or anything. So we've got a lot of people on my Discord that are currently playing the beta, playing it a lot, doing heroics, everything. So we've kind of started compiling a list of bugs that we know about, because the only ones I'm going to see is Paladin and Mage. I'm not really playing any other classes on the beta. So it's good to start seeing all the DK bugs, all the Shaman bugs, all the Priest bugs, which I wouldn't even know about without actively going out and trying to see, find them myself. So, yeah, we'll touch on that at the end. But again, we'll let you know when we're going into that section. It will be after the healing section, and then it will be a goodbye. And breathe. Go.
Jeez, you threw it to me really quick there. Stray Cat with the first super chat of the night. I guess they have a black screen with text how to fix. I'm assuming something went wrong with the stream for them, so I hit him back with the turn it off, turn it back on. Refresh the stream. But yeah, during the show, if you have any healer questions, hit us with a super chat. That's how we'll be able to see it really easily, and we'll ask the guests. We're not going to ask Scotty, so don't gear any questions towards Scotty. This is just for the guests. And yeah, we'll get to him. And that's all I got.
Cool. Okay. So a little quick around the table. We'll start with you, Willie. So yeah, it's been a few weeks, maybe a couple of months since we caught up, and I believe your plans have changed for Cata. So what's going on?
Yeah, so obviously throughout Wrath of the Lich King, I played a Warlock. That's kind of been my go-to thing in Classic. But moving into Cataclysm, I played a Resto Druid back in the day during this expansion, and I had a lot of fun with that. So, when it was announced, when the pre-patch started to become closer and closer, I said to my GM, look, I just want to play a healer that's going to be a main healer and is not going to be replaced. And our Disc Priest at the time, main Disc Priest, looked as though he wanted to go Shadow. And so I rolled Disc Priest, played it for a bit. The person who was playing Disc before tried out a week of Shadow, and they said, wow, I hate this. And I said, wait for the pre-patch, and they said, no, I still hate this. And they've gone back to Disc now. So I pretty much don't mind which hero I play in Cata, because I think it's just very much improved compared to Wrath. So long as I'm playing a main healer, which now means I am going to be a Holy Paladin.
Oh, yeah.
My main spec in the expansion. And I've been trying to bet in the pre-patch. Back in the day, I didn't like Holy Power and how it worked. And I've been trying on the pre-patch now, and I really don't mind it as much as I thought I would. I was kind of ready to say, I hate this, I don't want to play it, just put me main Warlock. But no, I kind of like it.
I think it adds a nice bit of spice to what was quite a boring healer. Throughout Wrath, I spent, pretty much the entirety of Wrath on EU as a Holy Paladin, healed every tier. And yeah, it's very different. You're in melee range, but you're just auto attacking to try and get some mana back. Now in Cata, you're actively attacking the boss to get holy power. You can interrupt. You've just got, there's so much more usefulness outside of just getting mana back to being in melee. And I think probably back in the day that people maybe found it too difficult. Going from Wrath, then going into Cata, where you have to stand in melee, you have to actually attack the boss. It was probably a weird change of pace.
Yeah, probably. But I guess that's just it's how you play the healer. We'll see. I don't know if there are any boss mechanics which treat Holy Pally as a ranged unit. So I know they changed it to be treated as a melee unit in future expansions. I don't know.
I believe, and don't quote me on that came in with Mop and Mistweaver is when Holy Pally started getting treated as a melee as well.
Because the thing that made the melee was the mastery, right? It had your mastery was proximity to units would heal more instead of you put an absorb shield on them. I don't know if that was Mop. I haven't looked at that. I feel like it was a Legion, but I haven't checked it.
So I know. Sorry, I know in Mop that's when Mistweavers came out being classed as a melee. And I believe that Holy Pallies were the same then, but I can't actually remember now that you said it.
Yeah, I think it was a mastery thing that caused the change. But again, I haven't looked at it and I have no idea because I did not play this back in the day.
Yeah,
so
I would have probably
knows.
said they're classed as range still in Cata. Is my gut feeling. But yeah, for me, I didn't play Holy Paladin at all in MOP, so I would be guessing. I'd have to go and look.
Take ICC like Vile Gas on, Festagut or Rotface, whichever one it is. If you're a ranged person standing in melee, that could wipe you.
Yeah.
So,
but then it does. But then most.
I hope they thought this through.
Well, most of the mechanics require X amount of range to go out, like to be out, and then it'll always favour ranged anyway, don't it? So like you could have any healer stand in melee, as long as you've got the right number of people at range, if that makes sense. So if it required 8 at range for it to never be cast in melee range, then you could stick a Disc Priest in melee, you could stick a Resto Shaman in melee, like whatever. But I do think we're still classed as ranged.
Yeah, if that's how it works. But either way, I've been trying that out in the beta a bit. I've been having some fun with it, giving it a go. And Holy Pallies are obviously a staple healer. They're still very powerful. And looking forward to getting into the expansion properly with it.
So Ed had a fantastic question, and I'll answer it and have no idea what I'm talking about first. But for someone who hasn't healed since 2006-ish, which healer in Cata would help somebody get back into it without getting too sweaty? So for me, it's like shamans. I can't deal with totems. That's not very approachable for me. If I were to try healing, Paladin has the new holy power stuff. That sounds kind of confusing, so I wouldn't go there either. What else is there? There's Resto Druid, so I'd probably go Resto Druid or Priest myself.
I'd say Resto Druid personally. What do you guys think?
I agree. The Shaman would be all right as well. Totems do they have a longer duration now?
They have a longer duration with a talent, and they do a lot more for you now as well.
I feel like they're quite straightforward in terms of what they do. As Resto Druid, you need to prepare for damage before it happens.
Yeah, there is a bit more boss. Yeah, a bit more boss mechanic understanding. I look at a Resto Druid and think, well, you got hots that heal over time. You've got some single target heals that do more if they've got hots on. You haven't got anything else to worry about, really, outside that. Yeah, you haven't got to worry about what totem's going down and you're going to upset anyone. As long as you buff Mark of the Wild, you're chilling. I guess, it comes down, it probably comes down to personal preference. Someone else, like McNulty said in chat, Disc. Let's face it, Disc really ain't that difficult to play. Most of the time you're spamming Smite. So, someone could find Disc more comfortable. I think it comes down to, what you can manage and what you want. But I would rule out Holy Paladin, would be one that I ruled out, because I do think that actually there's, I don't know. I'm not saying you have to be in melee, but you're really, really, really damaging your output by not being in melee. And then that's the most probably difficult bit to learn, because you've got to understand all the range mechanics for when or if you do move out, and you need to understand what you need to move from melee with as well. Again, think like Algalon. I would always go into melee as a Holy Paladin on Algalon. But now, not only am I worrying about the tank not dying in 2 seconds, but also I'm having to move from Cosmic Smash every 10 seconds, 15 seconds, whatever it is. So, I think, I've got Shaman, Druid, Disc. I think you could be all right with any of them. Not Holy Priest.
Are you planning on doing any PvP in Cata, Willie?
No, basically. It's I don't know. I kind of dropped off with PvP in World of Warcraft a bit. It does, to be fair, it does look a bit better than the meta was in Wrath and stuff, but it's just I know it feels like the level of the average player has gone up so much now that even if you're like at what was considered a not very good rating back in the day, you'd be struggling now.
I think PvP for me, like in Cata, I'm looking forward to it, but it's because I've missed out on that big portion of the game. I've spoken about it so much. Been playing Classic since 2019 and never took PvP seriously. So like, I'm looking forward to it, and from what I've done so far, it's quite fun.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a bit more intrigued about it. I remember back in the day, I tried to get into PvP, and I was playing a Feral Druid at the time, which at the start of Cata was like an incredible pick. Like, I don't know if there was much that you could have picked that was better, and I still didn't like it. But that was due to my internet. People would run around a pillar. They'd be there on my screen, but when I tried to class my Cyclone or whatever, they'd be behind the pillar, and it was just, it just tilted me, and I stopped doing it. And then I found heroic raiding, and I was like, I can do this.
That was me as a mage. I would try to cast a sheep, and then by the time the sheep landed, it would look like they were not behind the pillar on my screen, and then they'd be like, nope, this target's not in line of sight. It's like, no, come on.
Yeah.
Yeah, the pillar humping meta was frustrating. It works. It's very effective.
Thanks for the super chat, mate. He said, let's get the party started. This is actually the second podcast in a row where I'm drinking Dr. Pepper and not beer, just because I've got so much to do before pre-patch launches tonight/tomorrow. But I feel like now he said, let's get this party started, I should probably get a beer.
I think so. And we can start with the questions if you want.
Yeah, go on, crack on with the questions then, and I'll go and grab a beer. Quick toes as well. Much love, man. I miss playing with you as well. Thank you for the super chat. Go on and crack on with the questions.
All right, let me see here. The first one that looks like a legitimate question that's not talking about food is, are there any notable profession changes in terms of what is recommended for raiding? And I think the difference between professions and Cataclysm is even more so negligible than Wrath. Like TBC, it was kind of like, yeah, there's probably a min-maxy profession. Wrath, it was like, yeah. And now in Cata, you're talking about like 20 stats into a pool of like 6,000 plus of that stat, like difference possible. So I'm just going the old school engineering myself, because engineering always has its perks. As a PvPer, it's always nice to have like nitro boosts in a battleground. I don't know if you can use those in rated battlegrounds though. I forget that. Hopefully we can nitro boost in BGs, but other than that, like it's pretty much up to your own preference. If you want to make gold, you can make gold and still get a bonus value out of pretty much everything. Correct me if I'm wrong there, Willie. What do you think about professions?
Yeah, it's they're all pretty balanced out these days. There's not a huge amount of difference between them. There's just engineering with the like you're saying, it's a belt tinker now for the nitro boost, not the boots. And then the synapse rings, which give you a bunch of stats, which share a cooldown with trinkets. So typically you do want equip trinkets, not on use, because otherwise they'll put them on cooldown. Other than that, yeah, just whatever you fancy, really. You'll get a bit less bonus from gathering professions. Gathering is kind of mining. If you're a tank, you can get a bunch of stamina. Skinning, you can get some crit. Herbalism, you can get some haste. But any other profession is fine, really. It's pretty balanced these days.
I've done some testing for science on this after the episode with Subtle. Obviously, it's not the most reliable test because we haven't got sims. So once we've got sims, and you can go, over 1,000 iterations and get a better idea, then okay, fine. But just for like my small amount of testing, I was on my own private server in the same gear on a Ret Paladin, and I literally just kept maxing professions and then deleting the profession, then maxing another one, and just doing like 3 minutes on a dummy. And I swear to God, I saw absolutely no difference in damage between being mining and herbalism or being engineering, tailoring. Over the 3 minutes, that the difference was just so minor that I wouldn't have even been able to say, oh, this is a clear winner. But like you said, when you're talking 80 stats, total for a profession, and then you're putting it up against, well, I mean, they all average 80. Obviously mining and herbalism is like quite possibly the worst you can physically pick, unless you're a tank, and then mining's all right. But it's so negligible that a minor gain from one, I'd say tailoring is about the only one that is really standout. And that's for just at the start of the fight when you're getting a massive attack power proc or a massive spell power proc. Then for short fights, in particular, obviously it's going to be absolutely crazy. Like the gain is going to be mental. But yeah, for everything else, just honestly, just pick what you want.
I think any classes that snapshot professions are a little bit more important. But like, I'm going to take Rep Pally as an example that doesn't snapshot anything. So it's just either raw stats or whatever, or Arms Warrior. Like, it doesn't really matter. Like, you're going to either do a little bit less burst but much more consistent damage, or a little bit more burst damage and then it's going to fall off a little bit more. So you can just play whatever.
That's why I like tailoring, because I like that burst potential. I love seeing things proc. So if I have my cloak proc, like the ring and ICC, if I had that rep ring proc, there was like a third proc too from somewhere. I think it was a different trinket. If everything procced at once, I was feeling good.
So I just want to, we'll go to the super chat in just a sec, but I just want to address Fish's message in chat about herbalism. The problem with herbalism, and I can't speak for every class, but certainly for the classes that I enjoy playing, and I would say for most, if I'm honest, in Cata, you've got haste breakpoints now, where you're aiming for a specific number. So you'll be aiming for, I don't know, let's say 1100 for a fire mage to get an extra tick on Living Bomb. I'm just making these numbers up. I've got a dot spreadsheet. I'll put a link to it in the description, actually, so you can see all the haste breakpoints for every class. But really, I know, of course, you'll be casting a bit faster, but, you're aiming for those breakpoints. So you're almost then... the value of haste between breakpoints is going to diminish. And then the closer you get to... when you get to a breakpoint, obviously then the haste is valuable if you can reach the next breakpoint. But that's why I don't really value haste procs, because there's no consistency there. You're aiming for certain numbers that you want to hit, and then you'll even be aiming for levels of haste, based on if you're going to get DI, Dark Intent from a Warlock, etc. So like when you're getting a few hundred extra haste from a cooldown like Herbalism, Lifeblood, whatever it's called, it's not enough haste to be impactful. Do you know what I mean? A few hundred haste is never going to be enough haste to physically get you to a breakpoint. Whereas, if you had a trinket, fair enough. If you've got a trinket that gives like 1.7k haste or something, when it procs, quick, I want to refresh my dots just before it runs off because I'm going to get an extra tick on them. But, for the majority of cases, if we're not talking haste procs in the thousands, those small procs are just fairly garbage.
All right, we got the next question is about which is going to be considered the more prestigious raid group size. Is it going to be 10 or 25? Because originally 10-man encounters proved to be the harder content because of buff coverage and mechanic scaling. Do you foresee a shift in prestige? How do you think this will affect Race to World First? I don't think I'm going to see like a Race to World First as a 10-man yet, but I would like it if the meta shifted from 25 down to 10 and it was a race of 10-man versus 10-man or something.
Leave it to the guests. What do you guys think?
I still don't see that we're going to switch quite yet. Like you said, Go, I still think that people are going to be used to 25 being the default kind of setup. But generally, I mean, 10 is factually just harder on about 80% of bosses in Cata. So if you are trying to clear the hardest content, then it's going to be 10-man in most cases.
Thoughts, Willie?
Yeah, I mean, from looking in, it's kind of weird, right? 'Cause you assume that the difficulty of more people is the harder version, because that's how it's kind of always been. But yeah, it's like Jay's saying, that's just not true anymore. I know. I feel like you should kind of separate them out into there's world first for 10 and 25 because they're very different things, and you have to set your group up vastly differently to succeed as well. And they're two different comps. So I think, as per usual, people are going to look towards the bigger raid size because that's what they always do, even though that might not be the right thing to do.
So what do you think about passing? So I don't know if you remember the term strict 10. Like that used to be a term back in the day. I don't hear it thrown around quite as much anymore. But if back in, I believe we were still working with World of Logs during Cata. It could have switched to Warcraft Logs by then.
I believe so.
But you used to have strict 10-man guilds where like your passes would be invalidated if you had logs of 25-man. If there was evidence of you doing 25 on that character, because technically, obviously, more gear drops in 25. So, like, you can dominate the 10-man passes if you go in 25 for a couple of weeks and get, funneled gear, and then you're just going to get geared so much quicker than people who are just doing 10-man. What do you guys think about that?
While Majay was talking about it, I think I was like, is the new meta going to be 25 is the split run and you're funneling the 25 gear to the 10-man groups? So I'd kind of like that if you had to raid only on 10 player, like no 25 player logs in order for it to count. That'd be kind of cool. I kind of like that.
It was only one section, though. I want to make that clear. There was normal 10-man logs, there was normal 25-man logs, but then strict 10-man was like a separate section. A bit like no well buffs on classic on Season of Mastery or whatever. So it's only a bit like that. But I don't know. My personal sort of gut feeling is that 25-man's still going to be the predominantly most run raid size, I would guess.
Yeah, I definitely agree. People have been used to 25-man being the top-end content for, the entirety of Classic. I don't think that's just going to change just because 10's a viable option. I just think the fact that 10 is a viable option is a nice quality of life thing, to be honest.
Yeah, I like it.
Even back in the day, like, what did people call the world first? Was it the 10 or the 25?
It was the 25.
Yeah, exactly.
I would say whoever got it first. If it was a 10-man group that got it first, they're the world first. If it's a 25 that got it first, it's 25.
I don't know if it always was, but maybe they didn't have the same resources or commitment from the players. Maybe the 25 guilds could have done a 10-man, but they did a 25-man. Yeah. I'm not sure.
But I would like, if there was a 10-man guild that cleared all bosses, including Sinestra on Heroic, before a 25-man guild did, I would consider that world first. Me personally, I would be like, that's world first. To me, when you've got it, like when Cata's set up in the way that it is set up, where you shouldn't be punished for doing 10 or 25, they drop the same loot, they should be similar in difficulty, even though we kind of know they're not. I think whoever kills Sinestra first and as down Nefarian and Alakir, that's the world first, no matter what the raid size is.
All right.
It should be, but our progress going to do 10-man?
I don't think many serious guilds will. Oh, Cata, we got Cataclysm beta test weekends.
Of course.
We'll go into that in the news.
Before we started.
Oh, yeah, sorry, we can go into that to the news. Yeah.
Oh boy, okay. Toberad.
Yeah.
Yes.
How many more of these questions you want to do, Scott?
I want to do the super chat that we just glossed over and didn't even answer.
Oh, I highlighted it and then we moved on. Hi, I am a holy paladin in Wrath, and I'm going to do the same in Cata. How different is it going to be in terms of play style? For holy paladin, yeah. So that's the whole kind of rework with the holy powers system, right?
No, really, give him a rundown.
It's extremely different. It's not comparable, to be honest, in any sense at all. So where you're used to you see a health bar drop, you press Holy Light, health bar goes up. That's just not going to be how you play anymore. You'll have to be in melee to try and generate holy power if it's convenient to do so. and that makes sense to do. And then you're going to have things such as Light of Dawn, which is an AoE heal in front of you that costs holy power. You're going to have Flash of Light, which is not spammable at all. It costs so much mana now. You have a new heal, which is called Divine Light, which is like an upgraded Holy Light, which costs a lot of mana, but it heals a lot. And it's just overall very, very different from how you're playing at the moment. I'd see how you feel about it in pre-patch, but just be prepared for things to change quite a bit.
Has anyone actually tried it in pre-patch? Because obviously I've been focusing on Ret and Fire Mage. I've not really switched to Holy and seen what, in current gear, what the mana's actually like.
I've tried it in the heroic dungeons in beta. Yeah, I've been playing it.
And how does it feel?
Feels very strong. I have to say, on average, this is like some general comment about pre-patch. You're going to get people who are a bit more try-hard and they're a bit more experienced. And a lot of the people I were healing were also blood DKs. And if they know what they're doing, they just kind of can't die. So I don't know if that's the best takeaway, but yeah, the Holy Pally all the same felt very strong. They've got a good set of cooldowns. They've got on-demand healing. You have more procs. You got the what's it called? The one that decreases your cast time on some spells. You got Daybreak, which gives you 2 holy shocks in a row. Yeah, it feels strong. It really does. You're going to be a wanted healer for sure.
Does the playstyle change even more from pre-patch into 85 because you get Inquisition, Holy Radiance, and Guardian of Ancient Kings on your journey up to 85? So does that make an even bigger playstyle change, or is that just kind of an addition to how you're going to play in the pre-patch?
So Holy Radiance is your kind of new AoE heal, which you'll use instead of Divine Light when a lot of people are taking a lot of damage. And it's kind of interchangeable with that spell. It's like, I know you place a buff on one target and everyone around them just takes a bunch of healing. Inquisition's a ret thing, you don't care about that. And Guardian is your next 5 spells, duplicate and then heal stuff around them. So it's just if you expect a lot of damage, you press Guardian, it does a bunch of extra healing. So yeah, it will add a little bit, but it's not like gonna change the world kind of thing. You'll get a good impression from pre-patch.
And Holy Radiance is mega expensive as well. It's like, yeah, you're not just going to want to spam it when people are stacked. Not unless you're going to have some downtime after it where you can like regen. But yeah, I mean, it's in early levels of gear, it's awful.
Yeah,
well, not awful, but it's harsh.
Yeah, Cataclysm healing, you press your good buttons, they delete your mana bar. This is how it works. This is the game now. But you don't have Light of Dawn, which I don't think any Holy Power spender costs anything, and that heals a bunch. And there's a talent that has a 30% chance to make I think a Holy Power spender not actually spend anything. Actually, that should be Word of Glory.
That's only Word of Glory.
Yeah, I think it's Word of Glory. Yeah, you're right. But either way, it's still very good.
Yeah.
Light of Dawn is one of my favourite abilities in WoW in general. Just looks so cool.
Yep, mine too. I love the Holy Paladin. Obviously, we're going to talk a lot more about healers very, very soon. But let's get into... Are we done with the viewer questions? Obviously, viewers, if you're on my Discord, you can put your own questions in at any point, and we'll cover them. There's some that we haven't covered tonight because they're talking about what's whether it's grated cheese or shredded cheese, and if it's a really sensible, well-related question, then I can more or less guarantee it will get answered. Take us into the news. Oh, is there a couple? Do you want to come back to?
But I know it's late for you guys. Like we had to start a little bit late because of my work schedule, so we can do a couple more if you want to. But
yeah, if you want.
We did have some news drop. Okay, all right. Wannabe Heroes, the next one. They asked, I want to have some fun with the level 79 and 84 Twinking, but from the looks of it, Mastery stat is only available at 80, not 78. Was it always this way, or did it change in a later expansion? So I don't know how you can reforge to get Mastery, if that is level capped at all. Because I know at 80 we can reforge to get some Mastery in the pre-patch, but I don't know if you can do that at level 78.
So historically, I don't actually know the answer to your question in terms of reforging. I believe you have to be level 80 and have a certain, like, item level threshold, but historically Twinks were always 80 or 81 in Cata, just for the way that the stats scaled. And there's some crazy like 3, 4, 6 eye level BOEs that you can equip at like 80, 81. So you tended to have like people in full 3, 4, 6 at level, like at low level, with just crazy amount of stat scaling as well.
I remember looking up gear, and I think it's like the rare spawns in like Twilight Highlands and stuff like that that can drop those BOE like 3, 4, 6 pieces.
Yeah, I mean, dungeons drop them as well. Like, there's a couple of different places you can get them, and if you get them, they tend to sell really, really well. But yeah, you tended to twink at 80 or 81, like depending on your class, just so you get the maximum value out of all of those extra stats. I remember DK being like absolutely unkillable as a twink at 81 because you're just in full 3, 4, 6 gear.
So the dungeon 3, 4, 6 pieces from the heroics, I thought that I was looking up as much as I could for my pre-raid stuff, and I saw that it looked like those didn't actually make it to live. So maybe that's available on like private servers. And I did see those, I think like on the PTR. I think we got that for the Battle with the Blues stuff. Like those pieces were in our bags. So I was like, are we going to get those drops in heroics when historically I don't think we did? It'd be cool. Like, why not? Like, just give us some BOEs.
So, yeah, I mean, the world drops were always a part of Cata, as far as I know.
It was just like the heroic BOEs mainly that I saw that it was in for like the beta testing originally, but then once Cata launched, those 3, 4, 6 pieces weren't there. You would still get a 3, 3, 3, whether it was normal or heroic for the dungeon.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about now because it's the same as the raids as well. They've done it originally with like Bastion of Twilight, like Unheeded Warning, for example, could be heroic, or Soul Blade, is it the one-handed strength sword from Bastion of Twilight trash? If it was heroic trash, it could drop it on heroic. But yeah, that was changed. It never went live like that. And then in response to it about mastery, from my memory and anything I've ever seen, it was always level 80 mastery. I don't, or in Cataclysm at least, I don't remember it ever being anything lower than 80.
Yeah, I think it's your armor spec is 50, mastery is 80.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
So if you're not 80, no mastery. That's it.
All right, the next one, I think I brought it up before we went live. We have one from Grifter. If your next podcast is about healers, I am especially interested in the damage changes to Disc Priest. What is the change in their mechanic? Are they still viable, and how does this damage to healing conversion work out? For examples, is dealing damage only in heroics an option, or is it also in raids? And this was perfect for Willie. We thought it was going to be perfect for Willie because we thought he was going to be a priest since the last time we spoke to you, and now you changed it up. But yeah, go ahead.
No, it's like atonement in Cataclysm is something you'll be doing, but it's not the most powerful version we've ever seen by a long shot. So you'll be doing, I think it's just Smite and Holy Fire.
Mm-hmm.
Correct me if I'm wrong on
that's
that.
Right. Yeah, that's right.
They'll heal a target within 15 yards of the thing you hit for 100% of the amount of the damage you dealt. If that's self-healing, it'll be 50%. So it's kind of just going to heal your melee group. And it's definitely a button you'll be wanting to press. It'll be something that's worthwhile doing. But as a Disc Priest, you're still going to be casting your regular heals a lot in Cataclysm. You're not just going to be healing through Atonement.
It's also extremely efficient because of Archangel. I've not got a talent calculator open at the moment, but yeah, for every smite you do up until 5, I believe it is, it reduces the mana cost as well. So it's a very efficient way to heal. And yeah, at 15 yards, there's plenty of times where people are stacked, plenty of time. It's got a lot of use. The majority of the time, you'll go through heroics more or less just smite spamming, but yeah, in raids, you've always got to be mindful of the of the range. You know, the people that are outside of that 15 yards, you're spamming smite, like, why is this guy not getting healed? And they could be 16 yards away from the boss, and, you know, they're not going to get healed. But then, you know, that's when you organise yourself as healers, don't you? You know, the casters, the range, you got your Resto Druid putting hots on them and that, and they're being looked after from someone else. You know, you know your Disc Priest is going to be very efficiently healing your tank and all the melee. Yeah, you just organise that.
All right, the next question is, I'm going to gear it towards Majay here. How much DPS can we expect in Phase 1? So, on average for heroics and raids, I would be really interested in the changes. Well, right now in ICC, we have the 30% damage buff. I haven't really seen the DPS numbers for that, but Ruby Sanctum doesn't. So I haven't really seen the DPS numbers in Ruby Sanctum either. But from what I've seen for the Sims in full Phase 1 BIS for, what was it, DK we were looking at the other day? It was like 31,000 for or 31,000 for Unholy. It was one or the other. 31,000 and like 37,000 DPS, like full Phase 1 BIS. Does that sound right, Majay?
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be about right. I mean, I can tell you, just because I actually have it open in front of me, Enhancement Chamois in pre-raid BIS is going to be sat around the 26.5k mark. So, yeah, early 30s would make about sense in Phase 1 BIS.
Yeah, I doubt these numbers. I want to put it out there straight away. Like, I think
high.
that just sounds incredibly high for pre-raid BIS. You know, and I think even Phase 1 BIS, you know, with DKs like 31k. I'm not saying we're not going to see it. You know, I'm just saying it sounds very high to me for what I've seen. You know, like pre-raid going in, I genuinely think we'll be seeing people doing like 15k ish around that.
Yeah,
that's my gut
for
feeling.
Like whatever's doing the highest DPS, probably 20k.
Yeah, absolute max. But I mean, when you're talking 25, 26k single target in pre-raid BIS, I don't see it. All right, you can carry on though.
Time for the news then. Yeah, let's get into the news.
I suppose so. While we're here,
so 3 days after the pre-patch launches, the 20-day pre-patch, we're going to have some raid testing because everybody's going to want to stop leveling their characters. They're going to want to stop doing their archaeology. They're going to want to stop leveling their professions, and they're going to want to hop onto the beta or the PTR, wherever this test is going to be at, to test the raids for the weekend. Next weekend, right? May 3rd through May 6th, Cataclysm Raid Test 1 is going to happen, and it's going to take on the Pit Lord Argaloth deep in the prison of Tol Barad, battle the cult of the Twilight's Hammer and Bastion of Twilight, storm the personal lair of the Wind Lord and Throne of the Four Tides, and survive the gruesome... What? For wins? Jeez, I haven't had that much whiskey yet, I promise.
Oh, drink more.
Survive. I'm waiting for the next super chat. Survive the gruesome draconic experiments and the reanimated Nefarian son of Deathwing in Bastion of Twilight again. No, Blackwing Descent.
So I've got something really negative to say about this. I know, shocker, and it's not to do with a date. Could they not have just put all the raids are going to be open in Phase 1?
Hey,
did they try to extend this blue post just by typing a load of bollocks at the start of each name?
I like RP. Yeah.
Hype up the raids.
The guy definitely gets paid by the word.
They were like, we know Go's going to have to read this out, so...
I'm with Jay. Yeah, the geezer gets paid by the word.
Whichever guy did this definitely had to look up the name of the boss in Tol Barad, because nobody knows the boss in Tol Barad at all.
Some thoughts.
It's not even Tol Barad, which annoys me, but...
It's Baradin Hold. It's Baradin Hold.
Yeah.
That's brilliant.
But he did say deep in the prison of Tol Barad. So the prison is Baradin Hold.
Enough.
Yeah.
It could have said battle the Court of the Twilight's Hammer in, I don't know, Twilight Highlands or something. I don't know. It's around there. You'll find it.
Come on, Willie, I want your hot take on this, because, you know, you always the thing I love about your videos is you always put a lot of thought into your wording construction, you know, to be really, like, critical, but also not be one-sided, if you know what I mean. So I want to hear one-sided Willie here. What do you think about this?
What's that? So
The
May
dates.
3rd to 6th. So that's going to be coming out for EU, presumably on midnight. So call this a one-day test, basically, between the 2 days that are available. That's not much. Wrath had a lot more than this. And a lot of the bosses that we're testing in Wrath we'd done them before. They were just easier.
And I would say, God, people are going to shit on me in the comments for saying this, but the majority of people, the most time they get to play is the weekend. That is that fair to say? Like, I know we're very fortunate. We get to play, whenever we want, but most people are at work all week. They might have raid commitments in the evenings and whatever else. So the weekend is where they can really just stick Netflix on, sit and chill, do some farming, do whatever they need to do for a longer period of time. The only 3 weekends of the pre-patch, you're being asked to go and test Cataclysm stuff. I'm not doing it.
But
also,
I imagine I will have to do it. I do not particularly want to do it, but that's the kind of guild I'm in.
But also, trying to clear all 4 raids in a night of raiding is I don't think a lot of guilds are gonna be able to do that.
I mean, if imagine what gear we're in. If we're in heroic gear, you're not doing heroic. You could count the number of guilds which would be capable of doing that on one hand.
Yeah.
Normal's okay, but heroic difficulty is different from normal substantially. So, I don't know.
Is it more difficult because there's added mechanics like we've seen in ICC and stuff like that? The fight kind of completely changes from normal to heroic. That's going to be the same thing for these raids.
I mean, so consider Blackwing Descent. Every boss effectively has one new mechanic on heroic, so it's not particularly crazy difficult. But Magmor, as an example, is one of the easiest normal bosses you'll ever kill. It's basically a target dummy with a vulnerability phase, so you just nuke through it, you press Bloodlust, and it dies in 60 seconds. On heroic, it becomes one of the biggest healing tests of the entire tier. So the difference between normal and heroic is quite big. I mean, progging 13 bosses for guilds that have never seen them before in a day is just not happening.
Should they just put full access to tier 11 gear on vendors, and you can gear your whole raid group out to the maximum
Stick you in
gear
full,
that we'll have available?
maybe full normal gear. Stick everyone in full normal raid gear. I think that would be fine.
Normal gear, okay.
I agree. With tier pieces.
I'm saying put everything, put the max on there. Just let us test the mechanics.
Hopefully. Last time I checked the beta, I was playing a Holy Paladin. I didn't have some item slots. They just put, I think, 3 different strength capes and no caster cape. And you couldn't buy gems.
Yeah, your enchants didn't work on the gear. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I think it's different on an A, by the way. I think they did remember to put them in, but it's just incredibly scuffed at the moment.
Yeah.
Just to clarify why I said what I said, go, just in case anyone's wondering. The reason I would give everyone full normal gear is so the heroic versions of the encounters can be tested in the expected gear for it. You know what I mean? Rather than because testing normal. Don't get me wrong, normal needs to work, but if heroic works, normal should work because all normal is going to be removing mechanics. I feel like if everyone's just going to go in and do normal because all they've got is 3, 4, 6 gear, heroic could still be an absolute mess on launch,
Yeah, that's why I would just say just give them the best loot possible so that we can test those mechanics. The most amount of people can test the mechanics themselves.
That's what they've done with heroic dungeons. They've given us full heroic dungeon gear, and they're pretty easy, to be honest.
Yeah.
When you have the gear that's appropriate, it's not too difficult anymore.
But they are all bugged, though. Just put it out there. Most of them are not even doing their mechanics.
Yeah. I mean, I did a good old stone call where Ozrock, one-shot a bunch of people, but that's fair enough then. But like if the raid's released on Heroic where they haven't tested, I remember back in the day, Sinestra was gigabugs on release. And there were guilds trying to do it, and they just... I remember hearing posts about Blizzard, like, forcefully wiping guilds because the boss was bugged, so they could fix it during their progress. Because it was like the first, I guess, hidden boss ever.
Nice.
Yeah. So I just want to just pit Jugs. Like, I agree, mate, by the way. You know, obviously, the majority of us that are, you know, going to take Cata seriously, we're going to be progressing heroic bosses in you know, like pre-raid gear, obviously. But when you've only got a small window for that first test, the only way I could see it being viable by actually just having people in full 3, 4, 6 gear is if you could literally just teleport to each boss. So you could pull Magmore on Heroic, test it out, make sure all its mechanics are working, knowing it don't matter whether you kill it or not, and then go to the next boss. Not quite, well, it still is actually quite important in BWD. It's more important in Bastion of Twilight. But yeah, so you can get to the bosses, not actually have to kill them, but be able to test them and make sure they work. But what we're saying here is between the 3rd and the 6th, we need Sinestra, like, to be killed. You know, like to say that all the bosses have been tested. Well, not necessarily killed, but at least pulled.
Yeah, I mean, there's a second raid weekend for the same raids, the 14th through the 17th. But you were talking about wording earlier there, Scotty, and the wording is saying that we're not going to have access to these raids on launch because we're opening the doors to the new raids that will launch shortly after the expansion.
Yeah. So they're not going to be there at launch. Yeah, we've got that from that post. That's good.
But when is that going to be? Is it going to be the following Tuesday? So it'll be
that's 6 months later.
Yeah, is it going to be 2 weeks? Are they going to wait for Dark Moon Fair to launch because Dark Moon Fair is not for like 3 weeks after launch or something like that, 2 or 3 weeks? So we're not going to be able to go into the raid with our Dark Moon Fair trinkets as pre-raid trinkets or anything like that unless they delay the raid for some reason for an extended period, more so than they have in the past. But then May 10th and the 13th, we're going to be able to test Tol Barad, the battleground. And Tol Barad was once an outdoor PvP zone, has been reimagined as an instanced 80 versus 80 battleground because Wintergrasp has worked so fabulous without any lag at all. It's similar to Wintergrasp in Wrath Classic. Yep. We're also planning a brawl with the Blues event for Tol Barad. We'll let you know exactly when. You guys excited for Tol Barad? Because
I am.
I've been doing Wintergrasp, and people are just mounting up, getting through the starting little bubble, and they're doing the stuff before the timer even runs out. So once the gates actually open for the people that aren't abusing that, we've already capped the all the vehicle areas, and it's like, oh, okay, cool. And is that what I should expect for Tol Barad too?
It'd just be win trading.
Yeah, I was about to say, I hope it doesn't happen, but almost every server with Tol Barad has win trading because it's the most efficient way to do it. And it's just like a commonly agreed thing by everyone that you just like the attacking team runs in and you just swap control of it every 2.5 hours.
Yeah, it might be a little bit different in Classic, but you know, I kind of see we're all going to want the path of least resistance, aren't we? It's just, I can see it going that way.
Back in the day with Tol Barad, you'd the battle would be going on, and there'd be a certain number of people that could be inside of the instance of the actual battleground portion of it. And as it was ending, you'd run up the bridge, and you'd still get the reward. And this went on for so long. I remember abusing this for ages. I don't even know if they fixed it, to be fair.
It was still in Wrath Classic. You could do it with Wintergrasp. You had to like
beautiful.
You had to like parachute in as it's about to end, and you could get the reward.
Yeah, but I'd be in like a literal raid group. There'd be hundreds of people on this bridge. They'd be like, oh, okay, it's ending, run up the bridge now. You just run in and get the reward. And you're like, oh, okay, great. Thank you, Blizzard.
So the other thing that I want to point out about this is that, yeah, it's purely beta testing. So there's still a lot of people that haven't actually got the beta, you know, like Subtle for one. So I don't know if we're going to see some, you know, more waves go out, you know, beforehand, but yeah,
I to do big waves before the raid tests.
I think
say beta. Yeah, why not the PTR?
Yeah, specifically beta. Now, I would probably do the first raid test, and that's about all I would commit to. Like, again, it's more the amount of stuff that I've got to do in the pre-patch, and they've only gave us 20 days of a pre-patch. Like, this testing should have been happening before the pre-patch launched. We shouldn't be beta testing
ago.
Exactly. We shouldn't be fucking beta testing raids during a pre-patch that's only 20 days. It's like ridiculous in my opinion, but
see, I'm saying like the May 3rd through the 6th one, like there's no shot I would do it. But the second raid test, May 14th through the 17th, after I've already got my Troll Druid leveled up, I've been like rushing to do ICC on it, like the first lockout. I've got his profession set, all that stuff. Archaeology's maxed to 450. Then by May 14th, 2 weeks after launch or whatever, then maybe I'd be more willing to test the raids at that point.
Well, I mean, you got more chance of the classes actually being fixed by then as well. I mean, are they really saying that all these class bugs are going to be fixed by May the 3rd? Like, no, come off it. There's too many. There's no way. And that's my concern about tomorrow, about the pre-patch. There's still so much shit that just don't work. But, you know, we'll see. Let's be hopeful. You know, I'm sure they think they know what they're doing, so see how it pans out. But ultimately, that's the news. If you want to do some testing and you're on the beta, those are the dates. I will personally probably, yeah, as I say, I'll be doing one or the other. I don't know. I won't be doing both because there's just no point. But I'll definitely do one of the test weekends and put some 10-mans together. I won't even be doing 25. Yeah. I'll just do 10-man, just less stress. Cool.
We got a super chat I want to gear towards Majay because they Celsius. Hopefully I pronounced that right. If my guild struggles with healing now, does healing get harder? And if so, how?
I think healing is a bigger skill check in Cata, just generally. You can't just... I mean, Holy Paladin is probably the prime example with this. They are the kings of just spamming Holy Light and getting through the fight. Divine Plea is kind of insane. You know, they can pretty much go through most fights without having to worry too much about anything. Whereas in Cata, that's just not going to be the case. They need to be generating holy power. They can go out of mana. And just generally, the healing checks are a little bit tougher. So it's something that I think healing is genuinely going to be a little bit harder. But I think, you know, I don't think it's a wild jump. I think if you have good, strong, capable healers now, that isn't going to, like, you're not going to disappear and not be able to heal at all in Cata.
Would you say that you would be able to just throw another healer in there if you're having troubles healing, or other DPS checks where if you tried to make that decision, oh yeah, let's just throw a 6th healer for this fight, then you wouldn't be able to make that DPS check because you had more healers than you needed to have?
I think there are going to be fights where a DPS check is kind of important. Consider Nefarian, the tactic that we were using for Nefarian Heroic, which, you know, is something that we managed to avoid dealing with a lot of mechanics, required us to get through certain phases very quickly. So we actually started dropping healers to get more DPS to clear the content quicker or clear the phases quicker. So, you know, there are some bosses, like Maloriak is a perfect example. It is absolutely not a DPS check. In fact, it's a completely tactics-based fight. You could bring 8 healers to that on 25-man and you wouldn't be hindering yourself in any way. But there are other fights like Chimeron where bringing more healers just doesn't help you, really.
Yeah, like Chimeron there'll be a lot of people that say it's a DPS fight, it's a tank fight, it's whatever, but Chimeron is very much a healer fight in my eyes, and always will be, because you see the difference between a good healer and a bad healer. As in, for anyone who don't know, Chimeron, which you'll be able to beta test on, you know, raid test on the beta soon, all of the players will have, like, there's a machine that's on in the room, and it will save you, basically. I think it's 10k health. So as long as you're above 10k health, if something hits you that would kill you, it will just bring you down to 1 health. But if you're under 10k health, you have a little, like, red icon on your on the healing frames to show that you can be killed. So what you see healers do is trying to spam heal, hot everyone, you know, trying to top everyone off, when that's not actually what you want to do. All you're looking for is the people that are at risk of death little heal on them to top them off. You'll find like a good healer will literally end that fight on nearly full mana because they're not wasting heals on people that are definitely not going to die. You know what I mean? But yeah, I think there's a lot of fights like that really there's a big emphasis on the healers, which I like because someone who enjoys healing, obviously.
And there's one other news thing that popped up. If you're somebody that enjoys looking at the pre-patch best in slot gear on Wowhead, then it looks like that has become available. And it might be more than that. I haven't clicked on the link just yet, but I know that like the rotations and stuff like that are supposed to come out as well. So there's probably some decent information on Wowhead to go check out. And yeah, that's it for the news. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so move on to it's the main topic now. Well, not main topic, but the role of the week. So just healers in general. Where would you like to start?
Before we get into it, Scott, I have a little story to tell you. So, I was bowling in a league.
I know what's about to happen.
I was bowling in a league one night, right? And I'm what's called the anchor. So
no, you're something that sounds like anchor, mate.
It just means that I'm the last bowler on the team. So on a 4-man like bowling squad, I bowl last. So you usually put your most reliable bowler in that spot, and if the game comes down to the 10th frame, you'll know that person is going to finish strong under the pressure. So there was this one night we only needed 10 pins to win. And believe it or not, I went up there to throw my ball and I rolled my ankle on my first throw and I left the 10 pin. So I only got 9 down. So I get ready to throw my second ball and I'm up there about to throw it. I'm in agonizing pain, but I just knew I had to deal with it and man up to spare. Mana to spare. So we kind of talked about it. Is like healers' mana a real issue in Cataclysm? And what options do healers have to make sure that they don't run and Scotty's gone.
I love the fact that you had to genuinely try and stop yourself laughing during that. It is that bad. Also, these are getting longer and longer.
I thought about that on my drive to work today, and I wrote that one out. I was like, I'm not going to fuck this one up. So I had a whole script.
The fact that that's been committed to text is a sin in itself.
Well, Scotty called me out for my last one, and he was like, "Yo, yeah, you've probably been thinking about these segues and like writing them up." And I was like, "No, I haven't, but I did today. I had to make sure I had the man up to spare correctly."
Yeah,
but yeah, Innervate isn't really used as like hey, my healer's out of mana. Let me, as a druid, give the healer my Innervate, and they're going to have a huge benefit. They're going to get 5% of their mana back. So our healer's going to be popping mana potions. There's still replenishment as a buff that is raid wide from a couple of specs. So like, how are healers going to get mana back if they're struggling, if they're running on fumes?
Mana Tide Totem, baby. That's it.
Yeah,
that's all I've got.
It's definitely changed a lot from how it used to be in Wrath. But you could kind of health bar drops, you whack-a-mole it, put the health bar back up and you're fine. You never go home pretty much. And now it's I think the biggest healing change is there's like every spec has a heal which works in the same way now. There's your fast heal, which costs a lot of mana, which is like flash heal, healing surge, flash of light. There's your slow heal, which doesn't cost much mana, but it's efficient. That's like Holy Lights, Healing Wave. What else? Nourish, I guess. And then there's your slow heal, which costs a lot of mana, but it's very efficient, which is like Divine Light, Greater Healing Wave, stuff like that. That's like the general healing rework. So if you try and heal like you do at the moment in Wrath, like if you're playing a Disc Freeze, for example, you try and spam Power Word Shield, you're going to be in a minute, and people are going to be saying, "What are you doing?" Because it's going to look real bad. So you need to look at what your spells are actually doing now, and how much you can get out of them, because it's going to be a big change initially.
Yeah, and that in particular for Disc Priest, the fact that Rapture only affects one shield now, like it was always originally intended to, actually. but it was kind of just left to be. But yeah, it's a mana management game now rather than a just quick spam, top them off, snipe heals. You know, which I like. You know, if you see someone, like if I'm raiding with Go and I see Go on 90% health, but I see him with, you know, he's got a rejuve and a wild growth on him, I'm not going to waste any mana healing him. What's the point? Let the HOTS do their work. That's how healers should be playing in Cata. Because, well, you know, to begin with, I think I should be really clear about that. You know, once you're even in, like, you know, half decent gear in phase 1, we're talking the odd heroic bit, you know, you've got some normal gear, like decent trinkets and all of that, you can be a bit more spammy still. It's more early on where you need to be careful with mana, but it does get easier with gear, like substantially. You know, where if you're talking going in and doing Blackwing Descent for the first time, no, as a Holy Paladin, you know, stacked up on Chimeron, you're really going to struggle putting out Holy Radiance. You will, you know, you'll do a few Holy Radiances and spam in Light of Dawn, but then once you get some gear, you'll very quickly see, oh shit, I just spammed Holy Radiance for like 10, 15 seconds and I'm still on like 70% mana. You know, it really does get easier.
I would say the other thing as well is making sure you have both mana restoration buffs. So you have mana restoration, which is a ticking, like it's effectively Blessing the Wisdom. It's linked into Blessing the Might now for Pallies. It's Mana Spring Totem for Chamois, and it's the Fell Hunter Fell Intelligence buff for Warlocks, as well as Replen. Like exactly the same as in Wrath, how important Replen is. Like having these buffs in your group is going to be so important to make sure your healers aren't going especially during progress.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you think healing's going to differ massively, and this is really an open question to any of you, between 10 and 25 man? You know, if we're talking just from a healing perspective, not from an actual like overall raid difficulty perspective, where do you think healers are going to have an easier time?
I think it's easier in 25 man personally, because healers tend to have a little bit more of a set role. Whereas in 10 man, you have to be a little bit more reactive to things. Like you could be a disc priest in a 10 man and the tank's getting beaten up. And it's not like you can just go, I'll leave that to my other healer, because they might get a mechanic on them. They might be dead, whatever, right? There's a lot less room for error. So you might have to just react and help. Whereas, you know, certainly for me as a Resto Shaman, if I'm playing my atonement spec, I'm not casting a heal on anyone unless it's Healing Rain. Like, and that's fine most of the time.
Yeah, what's your thoughts, Willie?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's generally just there's more bodies in 25. It's more forgiving. You get more combat reses. There's more cooldowns. You're going to have a mana tide, more or less guaranteed. You're not always going to have that in 10. So you just have less abilities to press, less buttons to press. And if the other guy isn't pressing the healing buttons on someone when they're struggling, or, you know, they've taken too much damage, it falls down to you. And if you don't either, they might just die. So it can be extremely punishing, and it just feels more challenging on 10.
I feel like one thing that's really important to say as well is you can't save stupid so much in Cata. And that sounds really toxic. That sounds really toxic, but...
Do you just call me the S word? How dare you?
Yeah, I'll believe it.
I nearly choked on that.
Dungeons train you for this, okay? Stone Core. Okay.
Yeah, like, I mean, heroics are going to be a prime example of this, right? Where people are just stood in stuff. And it's like, in Wrath, you can just... Like, a Disc Priest is amazing at it. Just being like, no. You have a big old shield on you, you're just not going to die. But that's not going to be the case for Cata in times. Like, people are going to stand in a mechanic. Like I watched Scott do the other day. He stood in the mechanic of the first boss of Stone Core, the really easy one that's very, very obvious to avoid, and insta-died.
Was Scott drunk?
I don't know that he was,
it's hard to say.
One or the other.
The jury's out. You may be, but who knows?
What about... so this is quite a spicy question, really, but when we look at the heroic dungeon difficulty, and we spoke about this last week, if the heroic dungeon difficulty is significantly easier than we was expecting compared to private servers, which, by the way, when I say private servers, they're not pre-nerf. They're all post-nerf, or the ones I've played on are post-nerf. So they're still in an easier state than what they was originally. But the beta heroics are even easier than that. So what if, like we're hyping up these raids to be difficult and they actually end up really, really face roll because Blizzard have intentionally made the first tier easier than it should be?
So I have a story about the heroics. This
Oh,
is not
God,
a
it's not a
segue,
segue,
Scott.
is it?
It's not
okay.
a segue.
I won't go anywhere then.
No.
I'll stay here.
So while leveling up on the beta, I had to get my gear. I did the normal versions of the dungeon to get gear. I was doing all these quests. I was figuring out my rotation, all my new spells, my new abilities, all that stuff. And then when I got into the heroics, I didn't really do heroics until I had the eye level to get like the random heroics, like 3, 2, 9, whatever it is. Yeah. And then like once I got into the heroics, I might have failed a mechanic once or twice, but it really wasn't that bad. And everybody else that was in those had also gone through that same journey. And it wasn't that bad. The heroics were pretty easy. They weren't like difficult to the extent like we would maybe wipe on one boss a dungeon, go back in there and like kill it the next time. I don't think we had to really prog more than like one wipe per boss or anything like that. But after this latest thing, like this latest wave where they had the 85 template characters where people had their 3, 4, 6 gear, it was a struggle to do the heroics at that point. I don't know like what it was, but it was just people that just made a fresh character. They had the gear to do it, but mechanically they just didn't know what was going on in the dungeons, and it was harder. We were wiping a lot more. We were wiping on bosses 3 or 4 times instead of only one. So I like the difficulty. I think if people buy their 80 boost or if there's an 85 boost, that might kind of hurt them if they get some gear, like some eye level off of that somehow. I don't know, but I like the tuning of it. It's not too easy. It's not too hard. I feel like it's just right. The porridge is not cold. It's not hot. It's tasting good.
Yeah. So, I mean, my point wasn't really like around the heroics, but I do agree. As soon as you've got 85 template characters, you've got people going on characters to test them out with absolutely zero idea how to play them. They're probably focusing more on what buttons they're pressing than mechanics on the boss fights. I would probably be the same. If I went in on I don't know, an affliction warlock or something, I'd probably be focusing so much on what I'm actually meant to be doing than rather focusing on what I'm actually meant to be doing. You know what I mean? But they are, like you said, one wipe and people know what they're doing. It's not they're not difficult. But what happens if we see the first raid tier that we're hyping up to be difficult raid content on heroic and everyone just goes in and absolutely stomps it? Is that all right for a first raid tier as long as Firelands then steps up in difficulty? Which is like the traditional WoW expansion progression path anyway, isn't it? First raid tier is normally easy, gets progressively difficult throughout, whereas Cata's not meant to or normally that way.
I'll give one more take here really quick and then send it off to the guest. So with Season of Discovery, the raids have, at least after the first week, been tuned to where they've been really, really easy. And I think that just makes people do it for 2-3 weeks and then they get bored of it. So I'll split the difference and say if there is 1 or 2 of these raids in tier 11 that are difficult, that take progression, that's totally fine. As long as there's at least one that is kind of easy to smash through and get some gear. And if you clear it week 1 in a more casual guild, I think that's great. But if all 4 raids are just like, we have to sit here for 3 hours, 4 nights a week to try to prog and get the heroic kills, that's the type of content that I don't want to see.
So I'm interested to know how much you guys agree with this, but like, I think people have to understand that the raids will be cleared night 1. Like, they just will be. Guilds like Progress that are going and like actually learning this content now that will be in full pre-raid bis will have tactics for each of these bosses. But what I really like about the Cata heroic raids is like you have some easy to progress bosses. Like Halfus is a perfect example. It's not a very difficult boss. It's very chaotic, but once you get past that chaotic point, it's actually very easy. And it's something that I think people are going to, that's great. Most people should have a heroic Halfus kill in the first couple of weeks if they want it. But then you're going to get to things like Ascendant Council, and it's going to be, right, okay, this is going to be prog.
Yeah, I like that personally, as in, I'm cool with there being very varied difficulties throughout the raid, because it's very similar to, let's use Ulduar as an example. You wouldn't go straight into Ulduar as a progressing guild, a guild that doesn't play on private servers, a guild that are learning the fights together. You could be a very good guild. I'm talking a really good guild but still, you're progressing as a guild. You haven't done private servers or PTR or anything like that. You wouldn't go Mimirom first. The information's out there that okay, well, let's go for Thorim first. Thorim's a nice, easy one to get some loot from. Let's start there. And then maybe you do Freya, then you got a bit more gear. So maybe now, Hodir, you can beat the sort of spit the time, beat the DPS check. And that's sort of what you're saying, isn't it? That like Blackwing Descent, you'd pick Maloriak as a nice early heroic boss. You'd probably pick Atramedes as a nice early heroic boss. But I don't see anything wrong with that. It's just as long as they are actually heroic worthy, they're still difficult.
Personally, I'll be avoiding Maloriak like the plague because it's the one boss that I just hate. Like, it's a good design boss. It just drives me mad. But
title though, the temporary title for the flex.
Yeah,
yeah. Sorry,
go on.
I was just going to say, it's a lot less solved than Wrath, which is nice as well.
Yeah, and we're seeing that already. Go on, Willie. Go on.
Yeah, I like the. I'm kind of here for the progression of it. It's made me realize doing, classic raiding so far from vanilla through Wrath, that I kind of like a bit of progression. I don't want to kill everything day one. If I get the loot, okay, but I want the loot to make me, I don't know, improve how I can kill the boss, not just kill it a bit faster or something. So I'm very much looking forward to that.
I'm with you. And I've said loads of times, Willie, it feels so much more rewarding, don't it? Like if you've wiped for, not 30 maybe, but like you wipe 15, 16 times or something on a boss, and then you get it down, it feels rewarding.
Yeah, I mean, Yogg Zero, we did a good 70 or so wipes on that. We're not going to talk about the people who took a portal when they're not meant to take a portal, or we got the wrong room in the brain or something. But eventually we got it down. It felt great. It came down to the wire. Same with the Lich King. Lich King was a very scripted fight. There was an extremely low amount of RNG in it. Yeah, and not even the Valkyries. Like, if you position right, the Valkyries aren't RNG.
Defile's kind of RNG. If Defiles go to a mage and they can just blink out and drop it, as opposed to somebody else that has to actually run out without engineering or something.
No, you say that a mage got it once and the blink was on cooldown. That didn't go so well. Let me tell you that. We remind them of that all the time. But yeah, there's even like Lich King. We did about a bit over 100 overall pulls before we got it down on heroic, and I think we got it like week 3, which was fairly respectable. I'll take that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Progression ratings. I've missed progression rating. Like there's some like difficulty discrepancy between vanilla, which is you walk into the raid and you say, okay, what loot am I getting? And retail, where you walk into the raid and they say, are we going to progress tonight? And it's like the middle ground between that, where it's not as easy, it's not as difficult. It just feels like it's just a middle ground where it's there's good progression. It feels rewarding. You upgrade your gear, you improve, and the classes feel good to play. I don't know. This is kind of the middle between vanilla and retail for me. Both Cata and Mop for that reason.
I haven't really actually thought about it in that way, but I completely agree. Like, I went and got invited to a Mythic raid for a Midrasil in retail, and aside from the fact that I got into the raid and they went, right, do you have 17 week or is 3 add-ons? Your PC's up to date. You've done your latest Windows update. Like, everything is you just
have
need
fiber?
100 different. Yeah, like do you have actual internet, which I don't. And then the fact that I still like there were still so many things happening that it's quite overwhelming. Just generally, to like you said in vanilla, where it's like, okay, I've rocked up and pressed one button for an hour and a half and got some loot. Yeah, I actually kind of like the fact that it's, you know, you have to think, but it's not overwhelmingly difficult.
See, I don't want
They have gone towards that in retail, especially in Legion and beyond. Even towards the latter end of Warlords Draenor, things started to get excessively difficult and add-on dependent.
I just don't want to prog the first week of the first raid tier of an expansion. It was so nice to have Nax just be kind of like a face roll, just go in there and collect my loot. Like I like knowing the bosses. I like knowing the mechanics. This is combining like a whole new talent system with a whole new raid tier, and
You're gonna hate Cata, mate.
I know.
Yes, we will be progging, like we're 100%. You know, we've got a lot of guild plans that we're doing. Like me and Jay are going to be in the same, or Jay's going to be leading it. You know, a super serious 10-man progression group. But obviously, you know, the EU times, and then obviously NA times where we've got like the wider guild involved. Now you're talking, there might be 5 or 6 of us that have played on private servers, and you know, then 18, 19, 20 people, whatever, you know, that have never even seen the fights. So I think the first like couple of weeks of 25-man heroic is it's going to be a learning curve for everyone. But I like that personally.
So here's a question then, Go, because, and I feel like we have kind of got off topic, but shocker. Would you be disappointed if you only cleared normal? Because, and I'm not just saying like you specifically, but just in general, like, do you think you'd be disappointed? Because, like, I feel like Cata's like the first expansion where someone running around in normal gear, the difference is still going to be quite big between normal and heroic, but normal actually has its place. Whereas, like, I mean, I suppose for us, when we were doing Ulduar, like running around in anything less than Ulduar hard mode full bis gear was seen as like, what are you doing, sort of thing, you know? So I feel like the normal raids have a place in Cata.
So the Tolbarad raid, I would imagine, should be fairly easy to do on heroic.
That doesn't have a heroic version.
It doesn't even have one. Okay, so the 3 main PvE raids, as long as I can clear over half of the bosses on heroic week 1, I'd be okay with that. Week 1, yeah.
Oh, all right.
Week 1.
I think you're setting yourself some very high expectations, but
oh, because like Ulduar, I agree with you guys. Like it does feel good to prog bosses, and Ulduar was one where in the guild that Scotty and I are in now, and Majay's in now too. We only got like half of the bosses down, and the other half we had to prog the heroic versions on. We had to switch it to normal. And Aegeon Gaming asked, "Are we locked to heroic mode for all the bosses after you kill one on heroic?"
No, you're just locked to the ID.
Just the ID. So you can do it kind of like Ulduar, where you could have one boss heroic, kill it, and then go further into the raid, do it on normal, and keep switching it around.
On a boss by boss basis, yes, you should be able to.
But
we don't know 100%.
Blackwing Descent,
Yeah.
I believe you would have to. You can do the first 5 like that, but to do Nefarian, you would have had to have done all 5 on heroic.
Yeah.
Now you've got obviously Bastion of Twilight. You have to do everything on heroic to get to Sinestra anyway.
I thought it was only Cho'Gall on heroic to get to Sinestra.
Well, yeah, but you need to do the first 3 on heroic to get Cho'Gall, don't you?
Yeah, maybe. I can't. I'm not 100%, so I don't know.
I don't know.
I thought you could actually just go to Cho'Gall, set it to heroic, and then do Sinestra, but I could be wrong. That might be a very like catch-up mechanic from what I've seen on private servers, rather than a factually accurate way that it's going to work in Classic. So I don't want to comment until I'd actually looked into that properly. Really,
I'm not 100%, but that's how I remember it off the top of my head.
So
it makes sense.
if I was in a raid group like I was in the other day, I don't know if you were there too, Jay, but the 10-man heroic, that was my first heroic Lich King kill in Wrath. And we went in there with 10 people. Scotty can break down like the comp. There was like 3 people that have never seen the fight before. There was like 2 or 3 people that had like a 5k gear score or less. Like somebody had just dinged 80 the day before. And we went in there, we wiped the first time on Heroic Lich King on phase 1, and then we killed it the second time. And I haven't had a Heroic Lich King kill. So doing that progression with that kind of a group, that felt kind of sick. So I like that. And if there's something like that in Cata, hell yeah, like bring it on.
I think the difference is you've been kind of scarred, Go, and I've seen it. You know, yeah. So because people will be, you know, I don't think this of you, obviously, but there will be people that listen to the way you're talking and think, well, you're casual. You just want easy raids. Cool. Like, you know, go and enjoy yourself. But that isn't actually what Go wants, because Go is a very, and this is the only compliment I'm going to give him all night. I want to make that clear, and I'm going to have to balance.
I'm appreciating you already.
I'm going to have to balance it out by taking the piss out of him for at least an hour afterwards. But he's a high-performing raider. Simple as that. He doesn't make mistakes. He always, you know, brings his A game to every raid. But he's not really surrounded himself with those people where at a point, you know, there was a time sort of during Ulduar where it's fine to progress, but the point of progression is to keep going forward. It's literally the meaning of the word. But when you're like pulling the boss and literally dying to the same mechanic over and over again and never getting the boss any further than it is, because people are literally still dying to the exact same thing week on week on week on week, it sort of wears you down. Whereas I actually think you'd be all right in Cata Go with the raids being a little bit more difficult and less forgiving if you were seeing progress. It's like, okay, it took us 30 wipes to kill that boss, but you could see it coming. You know, every wipe, it's like we're getting closer. Every wipe, we've just handled this mechanic really well. Cool, and you're not going backwards. But I think, like, from what I saw in Ulduar when we was raiding together was, like, every week you was taking massive steps back on, like, bosses that should already be on farm. So I think you're just scarred.
We would kill Algalon one week, and then the next week with the same group, same comp, same everything, we wouldn't kill it. And then we'd go in the week after that, we would kill it. We'd go in week 4 after killing it, and then it was just like a toss-up. Are we going to kill this boss tonight, or are we not? The same with, what's the electric one, the opposite side of Algalon? Council, yeah. Council was the same thing. It was a toss-up. Like, we could kill the boss, but would the tank be in the right position? Would it get it out of the blue circle in time? Like, yeah, like I've been scarred through Wrath.
It's more or less come to sort of luck based on some encounters, which I'm sure anyone who's listening and you're in guilds that clear all content, but sometimes a bit sketchily, you'll agree. There's that one person or 2 people in your raid where you're just like, God, I hope they don't get the mechanic. You know, it's like, we'll clear it, no problem. Like, we're gonna clear it, but you just sort of you hope RNG's on your side, and that person doesn't get a defile, or that person doesn't get, you know, a mechanic to deal with, and then you know you're gonna be all right. And that was pretty much what it was like in Ulduar. If the wrong person got the wrong mechanic, it was like, fucking great. All right, wipe it up. Let's go again. Hi, Zach.
And if you're doing 10-man raids in Cata, you can't have that person at all anymore.
No, that's such a good point, Willie. Like, such a good point. Yeah. There is no carrying. If you want to do serious 10-man heroic, and I really believe no matter how the difficulty like is tuned when it goes live, unless it was ridiculously easy, obviously, but if it's even remotely how it should be, 10-man you don't carry anyone. 25 you can still get away with that, carrying a couple of people, but like 10-man they'll stick out.
But 10 you get 1 combat res.
Oh yeah,
like, if someone dies early and it's the wrong person, you just wipe instantly.
That's why you stack shamans. I know Majay's about to say he's stretching. He's like, 5 shamans.
I think it's still like that to this day, by the way, which is ridiculous in its own way. But
there's a reason I play Shabby. Like, oh no, I messed up on my mechanic. Never mind.
See,
But
I didn't even have DBM in that ICC run, Scott. Like I hadn't even done the raid in a month, and I still just went in there and I didn't fail a fucking like one mechanic. Like
I didn't have
my shit.
I didn't have my weak auras. Obviously, like I reinstalled Windows a few weeks ago, didn't I? So all of the RAF content I'm not fully equipped for like I would have been beforehand. But no, everyone performed well. Like what Go described was like a group that should not have been. I know we got a 30% buff, so like guys in chat, like calm down. You know, like I'm not saying Lich King 10 heroics hard and like we should be proud of ourselves, but it was more the fact that we had people, you know, multiple people, 3 or 4 people that have never seen the fight before, even on normal. Other people that dinged the day before. You know, it was the most scuffed group you can imagine. But those people all turned up. They listened to the calls by the raid leader and just performed. And there's no greater feeling than like killing a boss where it's meant to be that difficult. You know, it still poses a challenge today, and you can just get a 10-man through it quite quickly. And it does come down to listening and just doing what you're meant to.
Yeah, I mean, a Lich King heroic, there's some mechanics. If you do them wrong, you just die. Like, you hear about Shadow Trap? You're dead. If you do Defile wrong, you're dead. And everyone else is dead as well.
I almost hit a trap.
Yeah.
I don't know what I focused on something.
Could have been long gone.
Oh, I looked back and I saw the black like smoky stuff on the ground. I was like, "Fuck!" Everybody else had already moved. I was like, "No!" But I made it out in time. I was like, "Oh yeah. I played it off really well. Nobody even saw that."
Was your first reaction go? Was your first reaction shit? I'm gonna hit a shadow trap, and then second reaction was let me see someone near it who don't know what they're doing, and I'll blame them.
Yeah, is there a hunter pet? Can I blame it on a bug?
I learned something new the other day. If you get hit by a shadow trap and then instantly Alt F4, your character just like drops to the platform.
Holy crap! Hey,
I never knew this, but I saw someone do it in a GDKP, and they got hit by a shadow trap. Immediately Alt F4 and just like the character stops midair. Then when you log in, it drops down to the platform.
That's actually
I'd never seen it before, so like I learned something new, which was really cool. But like I was well impressed by it. But what I was going to say, I think there's going to be a lot of elitism in Cata, and it's one thing that I've always hated with the expansion, is that, and I'm kind of guilty of it as well. Like I've played lots of private servers, and I imagine, Scott, you're probably quite similar with this, in that like, you know, I'm going to use Alakir as an example. Alakir back in the day was a horribly hard fight, but we've run it so many times on normal now that it's going to just feel like a joke. It's going to feel easy. We're going to know where to go and stand. We're going to know how to avoid the mechanics. So it's almost going to be expected that we go and do heroic. But I think there's going to be a lot of guilds that go and clear normal, and that's going to feel good to them. But the community as a whole is going to say, well, you should be doing heroic. And I really disagree with that. Like, I think you should just be trying to do the hardest that's available to you.
Yeah. What your guild can manage, and like, don't worry about what anyone else is doing. Just enjoy it. And I honestly like, I wouldn't be disappointed if we went into the following phase with our quick. You know, we're going to go through the cadence. If we didn't clear everything on heroic, like, you know, I know the odds are very, very much in our favor that we will. But I didn't clear all the content back in the day. You know, I did during Cataclysm, but not when it was current content. You know, as in, like, I don't think I'd killed Sinestra until Firelands was out. I did kill Ragnaros during Firelands on heroic. I think it was mainly, it might have even been Neff as well, you know. I'd need to look at my achievements on retail because it should show the date, shouldn't it? But I'm pretty sure I killed Sinestra, during Firelands, and then from there it was all right. But like tier 11 was hard, like, and I'm hoping it's, you know, that sort of difficulty again. So I wouldn't be irritated if we went into the following phase, because it gives you reason to now run more raids. You got to remember, if you're absolute full bis in tier 11 and you've got nothing else to go back and achieve in tier 11, when Firelands comes out, you've only got 7 bosses, and I honestly would say that some of those 7 bosses are actually easier than tier 11 bosses as well on heroic. So it's kind of like, it'd be nice to have reason to go back.
Like, I'm kind of agreeing with you there, because in in Wrath, it's been where the bosses weren't that hard in phase 1, phase 2, where you could kind of get some people their full best in slot. But as a raid group, you're not full best in slot, and the whole raid has a reason to go back to the previous content, the previous phase to still do those raids, then that sounds okay. But if it's only like a third of your raid that still needs loot from that previous phase, then that's when it feels kind of bad. So I don't know where I stand now. I'm kind of confused.
Yeah. Well, you're gonna no. I know exactly what you're trying to say, and I kind of I'm gonna probably feel that exact same way. You know, when in Dragon Soul we're progressing on heroic, but still going back and clearing Firelands to make sure we're getting as many staffs as possible. Yeah, it kind of sucked having to keep doing Ulduar to, you know, because we've got one healer that hasn't quite finished their Valanir, and it's like, oh, for fuck's sake, you know, like there is those frustrations. But I think we're going to be going through it so fast if they don't make adjustments to the amount of loot that's given out. I honestly see us doing tier 11 quite regularly during tier 12, and I see us doing tier 12 every week during pretty much the entirety of Dragon Soul.
Yeah, I agree.
Are we going to be doing?
See is the it's something I want to bring up that back in the day when Paragon did the world first Alakir 25 heroic, they actually sat like a group of people out from the kill. They literally had them on the platform where the entrance was, not participating. I think it had something to do with the AoE damage on the fight. I'm wondering if that'll happen again.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know how it's meant to be, but they literally had a bunch of people. If you watch the kill video, they had, I think it was 7 people not participating in the fight until phase 2.
But I think, and like, don't quote me on this because I've not looked it up. Again, I don't like saying things like this without actually fact checking first. But the AoE healing in general would have been weaker at that point, because I don't even think Holy Paladins had Light of Dawn in the first tier of content, or it was either Holy Dawn or Holy Radiance, like one of them. You know, so I don't know how that would have affected other healers as well. But obviously, this time being in a 4.3.4 state, like where everybody's got AoE healing, it's probably gonna, it'd probably be different.
I didn't think of it like that. I thought of it more of a boss mechanic restriction, not a player restriction.
Yeah.
I've gone and actually looked at the video because I remember hearing about it, but like I just couldn't remember it. But I think so. I did it current content on White Main. We did Alakir 25 heroic, and the tactic that was used there was just a lot more brute forcey. Like, we didn't do any of the sitting out. It was, we had everyone on the platform. We split into 3 groups and basically had like 3 separate 7-8 man groups with 2 healers per group, and we just brute forced it.
Yeah, maybe that makes more sense now, especially with final patch talents as well. They tend to be more powerful. It's not a problem, but
I'm looking at the fixes to them now.
To how they did it back in the day.
Yeah, I know there was a lot of changes to healing, because healing was one of the biggest, and we will actually get onto healers soon, guys watching. There was a lot of changes to healers over the patches. I've just looked. I don't think it was Light of Dawn or Holy Radiance, so I must be thinking about something else. It went through a lot of changes though, as in the amount. You know, Light of Dawn originally didn't affect targets outside of your party. It only hit 4 people or something. Like, I just had a quick look at the changes. It had like 4 or 5 different changes throughout the patches. So I reckon like a lot of that would have played a big amount towards not being able to actually clear content. Like, we're going in a Dragon Soul state doing the first tier of content, so it naturally should feel easier, you would think.
And we sat people out of Viscidus and AQ40. So this isn't something new to Classic that I would say. Like, if you sit people outside of a boss room to avoid a mechanic, then yeah.
Mate,
sorry, sit on the platform.
We went and done Undying, and we done Undying, but we was also doing the other achievements, and we sat all the melee out on Shocking because we didn't trust them on Thaddeus. That was last week, and we left one melee in, and he still stood too close to the tank.
I was like, was it all melee or was it just Zach?
Zach was one of them that we left out. Shocker.
All right, so to get us back on topic, we did have a super chat from I'm going to butcher this one, Makako, I want to main Resto Druid and Cata, but worried I'll regret not picking a meta healer. How hard will it be for non-Holy Palace / Disc, assuming good performance? I'm also going to inference that they're going to say to like get a raid spot as like a Resto Druid.
This is something I've thought about a lot, because when I want to play healer in a healer expansion, or an expansion where I want to play healer, I should say, I don't want to change my spec. I don't want to have a scenario where on farm and and people say, okay, yeah, go play a different spec that does damage, because inevitably what happens on farm is people drop healers, and healers are arguably the only spec that gets more interesting on farm because you drop healers. So this is a real concern, which I had as well, which is why I pretty much gated myself to picking Disc Priest or Holy Pally. I initially wanted to pick Resto Druid, but the raid group I'm in said you're probably going to have to go Boomkin on some fights, whereas if you play Disc or Holy Pally, there's a very low chance you're replaced. I think they may be underestimating Resto Druid a bit. I'm a big Resto Druid coper. I played it back in the day, so I thoroughly enjoyed the class then. But yeah, I understand where you're coming from.
Well,
to a big degree.
Me and Jay are both big fans of Resto Druid as well. You know, we was running 10 mans on White Mane, and I was the Resto Druid. We was running Resto Druid Disc Priest. Now, don't that sound like weird?
It's interchangeable, right? With Holy Disc, yeah.
Yeah, and Resto Druid in many areas will perform better than a Holy Paladin, in my opinion.
Yeah. So yeah, again, like the guild I'm in, they've said they think Resto is more likely to off-spec than Holy Paladin. I think they're pretty similar, to be honest. Should be okay.
I mean,
if you want to play a main healer.
It's kind of going to depend heavily on the fight, I think. Resto Druid has some specific examples where it is just god tier. Just thinking of a boss off the top of my head, like Rhyolith, you're constantly moving in that fight. So just having a Resto Druid where it's like that doesn't affect them at all is amazing. But then you have like other fights where you can just sit and spam heal, and Holy Pally does do that slightly better. I think, and this is where, you know, we all of us try and make content and stuff, but we have to be careful with what we're saying, because, you know, you're going to be able to clear 10 man and 25 man running, you know, one Holy Pally, one Disc Priest, one Resto Shaman, and that includes 10 man. Like, I don't think you have to have the healing comp so much as you do in Wrath. Like, if you don't bring a Disc Priest in Wrath and a 10 man, it's just grief, right? Mm-hmm. And I think we all kind of know that, but I don't think that's quite as prevalent in Cata. So, you know, there are people that are going to be elitist with it, but in general, if you want to just be a healer, you should be able to get away with it. Unfortunately, as someone who plays Resto Shaman, I'm probably going to be the first person that gets not benched, but forced to switch, because it is probably the most or the least required healer, in fairness.
Can we just switch over to news, because there has just been a big update. Like that. Well, when I say big update, there's actually been a post about key differences between Cata Classic and original Cata. Like, is that?
Hell yeah.
I don't know exactly what it says because I've not read it, but maybe we go through it together, because it might answer some things.
Can you post it in the chat? Because I can't actually see the post.
I'll do it.
You got it going. You're right.
Yeah, it's in there.
So I'll
post it on YouTube too.
Cool. Just skimming through it. So Hunter Pets will function differently in the 4.4 Cataclysm Classic pre-patch than they did in the original Cataclysm patch. In original Cataclysm, Hunter players were able to place 5 pets in their stable and summon them anywhere in the world. Initially in patch 4.4, Hunter Pets will work the same way as they do in Wrath Classic. Is this because they could not get them to work? So you have to go. You have to go back to the stable master. Basically, what they're saying is it's not a difference that they want in the game.
We didn't have the dev time, so this is how it's going to work.
So keep reading, because they almost specifically say we couldn't get this to work and we're going to fix it later.
Oh yeah. We will update this Hunter functionality with Cataclysm Classic expansion content launch or sooner. Okay. Additionally, original Cata
Sure.
launched with pet aggressive stance and pet assist. Stance later replaced by pet aggressive stance in 4.2. We plan to have pet aggressive stance in place with 4.4 and then add pet assist stance in a future update. Again, just they're running. I reckon we're going to get more of these posts over the next like 24 hours of things that they just can't get to work.
Do you remember then when they said at the start of Raft they'd add the quest in-game system?
Yes.
And then they're like, it was like the final patch, and they're like, yeah, so this is here now. It's like, oh my! If I have to wait the whole expansion before I get pet assist, then
Oh god.
Rip Hunter. Well, I mean, Hunters have Sod to play. Well, Hunters just got nerfed in Sod. Never mind. Hunters are just getting fucked right now. Sorry, Hunters.
expansion wide.
Yeah.
Well, the other one I agree with. So void storage. I've spoke about this on stream. There's no need for void storage. So they're saying the same. Got a collection tab. So I can't think of any real decent reason to have void storage anyway. So yeah, whatever. Take it out. Guild perks. The guild perk system has been streamlined for Cata Classic. Guilds themselves do not gain levels. You absolute fucking bunch of morons, Blizzard. We're implementing a new collections feature as well as account-wide transmog. Oh, no, I've just started reading the previous one. I was like, what? Why are they going off topic? It's me. And item rewards are granted as players level up their guild reputation. In Cata Classic, many perks are granted to guild members immediately upon joining the guild, and many perks that were associated with guilds in original Cataclysm are now granted to all players by default. 2 perks from original Cata that will not be available is Have Group Will Travel and Cash Flow. Now, this is so fucking lazy. I can't help but swear.
Have a gin, Scott. Have you had a drink tonight? Because I know you started
drinking.
off sober.
Yeah, I'm on beer number 3, so I'm still going
right.
steady.
But no gin. No, you need a gin. After these blue posts, a little mixer, I think would do.
If I see a couple of super chats, I'll get on the gin. Go on, Willie.
Cash flow had to go. That's all I'm going to say.
But have
I agree.
Will Travel. Which one was that one? Was that
Mass summon?
Summon?
That was you get a rogue to stealth into the throne room in Stormwind, and then they can summon your entire raid.
But
Have Group Will Travel.
The thing is, they could have left Have Group Will Travel in and just had it only work at raid portals. It'll only work outside a raid portal.
Beta, right?
No, we could use it everywhere.
But
no, that weren't beta.
We had it in the beta, right?
Just a question for the beta, right? The Mass Resurrection was a guild perk. That's not in the game.
No.
They just put the Legion Mass Resurrection spells in the game, right?
Yeah, which I don't like that either.
They've just given them to every healer.
Yeah. Okay, that's a W, by the way. That's a good thing.
I'd like having mass res on like a rogue and shit like that, so you can just vanish and be able to res.
Both on a rogue and stuff, but.
So if
I guess, yeah, but I like it either way.
It's fine. I don't care about that. Like I'm all good. Sorry, go. Let me just go on a quick rant.
No, you're good.
I'm fine with them removing cash flow.
I'm ranting next.
Have Group Will Travel even. I don't care. Mass res. I don't care. My only issue with all this is guilds not gaining levels. Like, it was fun having to level your guild and unlocking perks and stuff along the way. Like, this is now. It's ripping out such a really good feature. And I know people were like, oh, it's pointless or it's gating content or whatever, but it gave you reason to go and do things like RBGs and, making sure you was doing heroics together to maximize your guild XP a week. Now, with how pathetic the economy is in Classic, are we really going to worry about doing RBGs as a guild just for some gold? Gold that no one's going to even care about? At least it encouraged guilds that would not normally PvP to step out of their comfort zone to go and do some RBGs just to try and get guild XP. Like, I think that's actually such a big negative.
So at the top of the post, it says that this is for patch 10.2.6, just pointing that out. But also, what else was I going to say? I don't even know.
What?
We'll move on to the guild find. It doesn't say it's for patch 4.
Oh yeah, I see.
Just something to bring up. Why does it say void storage is largely unnecessary? Does that mean it's an option if you have an item you want to transmog, but you also don't want to delete it? Like, will it still be available?
No, they're not implementing it at all. I'm sure it said somewhere that it is our intention to not add void storage to Cataclysm Classic.
I mean, you're still going to be able to, like, once you've had a piece of loot that is binded to you, you'll always be able to transmog to it anyway. So you like, there's just no need for void storage. It's just, yeah, it was a bad system back in the day. It was never needed.
So this is a big one that Rax just I've pinned his comment, which is what I've said. When people have been like, what are you going to do in the pre-patch? I've said, if the guild system stays exactly as it is now, my number one priority is getting honoured with the guild. Number one priority. It should be everyone's number one priority. Fuck archaeology. Don't worry about anything else. Get honoured with a guild. Because then you're going to be leveling with heirlooms from 80 to 85, which speeding it up by 15% is pretty good. It is 15%, isn't it? Legs 10, cape 5.
Yeah, I'm also going to say that, like, or is it helmet? Is it helmet or legs?
Head. Sorry, head and cape.
Yeah.
Head and cape.
I will also say, like, go and run a guild raid. You get so much rep if you have the majority of your guild members in a guild raid that, like, that will get you so far through the rep already that you'll be get close already.
Yeah.
Will we be able to get guild rep from doing like Nax in the pre-patch, or is it only going to be from ICC Ruby Sanctum?
I don't know, mate, if I'm honest. I don't know. I would imagine you'd get it in
World
Nax.
Tour.
Yeah, I don't see why you wouldn't get it in current content. Like, you know, as in the same expansions content, same level content. I would imagine you'll get it all the way through, but I am completely guessing, obviously.
So, like, just to check, the guild level being removed, what kind of content does that remove?
Well, it removes the gating of the heirlooms. Like, that's big, but it is the... Go on, Jay. Go on, you explain, Jay. I've been talking a lot.
So, the way the guild system worked, for, like, people in general who don't understand how this change affects people, that you had a weekly amount of XP that you could get, which... You know, you got that every week, and that contributed towards your level. You then had like weekly challenges where you would go and do a raid boss, like heroic dungeon bosses, and some RBGs that would also give you guild XP. So that was like a maximum amount of XP that you could earn in a week up to level 20. And then at 20 to 25, it was uncapped, and people then just kind of tried to rush to 25. So that's how the guild system worked. And things like the helmet was capped at, I'm going to say the helmet was 20, but I might be wrong.
20, no, 20
and the
right.
cape was 10.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so the cape was 10, the helmet was 20, which means there physically just wasn't enough XP in the guild for you to get high enough to get that point. So you might be exalted with a guild, but there's just not enough time for you to get all the way to the level that you would require. You also wouldn't get access to some of the perks. So, like, the Hearthstone perk was, I think, like level 6 or level 7 or something. The guild banking perk, like some of these things you just wouldn't have access to. Them changing that just means that everything's available day one, basically, which, I mean, we're losing the reason to go and do some of the XP challenges. And, yeah, wanting to do stuff as a guild, I guess.
And we're going to get 10% extra XP straight away. Like, I mean, you know, 10% extra XP straight away, 10% extra honor straight away, 10% justice points bonus straight away. Like, that's just so bizarre to have that in straight away. Do you know what I mean? As in, it's like, you've done nothing, but here, get extra stuff. I don't know, it's so bizarre.
What about the fishing and cooking for the flasks and stuff?
Yeah, that's all in.
So you need achievements to get some of like the later, so like cauldrons, for example, you need the achievement to make like 3,000 flasks, but they only count as the Cata flasks. So you wouldn't be able to do anything like that early.
But the buffs are in straight away, aren't they? The cauldron buffs and everything will be in straight away. Sorry, I thought that was what we were talking about.
Yeah, I'm just asking because you know, if it could be useful for people out here to because this is quite a big change.
Yeah, it's a massive change. I'll be like, you know, in terms of convenience, don't get me wrong. Okay, it's fine. You know, like if we're talking for us as players, getting extra bloody honor, extra justice points, having like as soon as we unlock cauldrons, we're straight away getting increased duration. We're instantly getting more flasks out of the cauldrons. Like, as a player, you look at it and you're like, well, this is great, but it just takes away a really good system, in my opinion. I like the leveling system.
It's definitely changed my pre-patch plans, though. Like, now that they've confirmed this is how it's going to work, I'm not doing any alt leveling until I've gone and got both looms.
Yeah, no, me and you. Well, we're doing it together. For anyone who wants to see a really, really, I'm going to say a little bit of a weird time. Yeah, me and Jay are going to be streaming together for the first 3 days, maybe more, depending on how the streams go. On Kick, yeah, kick.com/Scottejaye. But we're going to be doing the same thing. So, like, yeah, we're probably looking at this. I'd imagine, Jay, we're in agreement that we'll get to Honoured, guild rep-wise first, then get our looms, then start our goblins.
Yeah. Like, I don't see why you wouldn't. Like, the guild XP is going to... So we're losing Joyous Journeys, right? Well, we expect we're losing Joyous Journeys. We haven't actually had that confirmed. But it's not on the PTR. It's not on beta. We're expecting that it's going to disappear. But we're gaining 15% XP on looms and 10% guild XP. So we're going to go back up to 25% increased XP just naturally anyway. And the system, like, everything's so much more optimized. And 60 to 80 is going to be a lot quicker as well. So, like, the time to get to max level is going to be so short now.
You're changing my mind now. I was, like, so on my high horse about loving the guild leveling system. But now I'm, like, sort of thinking, it's a short expansion. You know, it kind of could be fun. Just getting it, like, you know, just everything being accelerated so much in terms of all the gains that we're going to get. And I know I sound like a fucking massive, like, I'm contradicting myself now, but yeah, you know, like, the more I'm sitting back and thinking about it, it's like, well, removing all of that stuff and just going here, just have it straight away. It's still for me, like, just shows a lack of caring from Blizzard. If they understood how Cata works, you know, they would understand it's actually a really, really long-term big positive for the game. But at the same time, again, for me as a player, thinking, everything's going to be quicker, like, that's kind of cool at the same time, do you know what I mean? But like we said about PvE, you know, as a PvE guild, you'll go and do RBGs for XP, but there's going to be plenty of PvP guilds, you know, and it would make them go and get a 10-man together to go and kill a raid boss together, you know, to get guild XP. So it kind of worked both ways.
Scotty.
Hmm.
My brother.
Hmm.
You are contradicting yourself, because for the raid content, you want to have that feeling of, oh man, we just progressed this boss and now we get this reward from it.
Mm-hmm.
But now all these guild perks, you're like, oh no, I don't want to feel that same thing. I just want to have it right up front. I want it to be super accessible. I'm on board with the whole thing. Like, yeah, we have to do all these things outside of raiding to get our guild to level up. And then once we've got it to that certain point, it's like, guys, this week on Thursday, we're going to have enough rep to get this guild perk unlocked. You had that guild progression. It was a community. It brought you all together, and they've removed it.
Yeah, you know, I'm with you. If I had a choice, I would choose that the guild leveling was there. Like 100%. You know, I would choose that it's there. But I can also see the personal benefits for it not being there. But it is personal benefits. That's why I keep saying as a player. You know, as me, just going, right, fuck this guild, don't like him anymore, I'm joining another one. You know, you join it. It don't matter. It don't matter who you join. Like, you're gonna get the same perks. You know every guild, because that was a big thing. You know, it was like, oh god, I'm in a level 25 guild though. Like, I don't really want to leave this. I've already got access to all my heirlooms, and you know, we've got everything. And then you go and join a new guild, or you get the guild split up for some reason, and then like your officers all create a new guild. It's like, great, we're starting from level 1 again. You know, that I'm not saying that felt good, but it kind of maybe helped keep guilds together. In a way, you know.
And with what Majay said, I still plan on leveling my Troll Druid even without the new heirlooms, because I was getting some pretty decent guild XP or guild rep while I was on the beta, and leveling up just to get to 60 even. Like, there's so much XP, it's going to go by so fast that if I don't have that extra 10% XP, like, fine, I'll unlock it on my tune. That's going to be my new main, I think.
15% XP.
15%. Well,
so I agree. Like, it's not going to be the end of the world, but I also think that like go and step into ICC 10, kill 20 mobs and go and get your tabard and then just run ICC and you'll be most of the way there anyway. I'm actually just going to check down because there has been an update on BTR, things like Joyous Journeys and whether the guild XP or the guild rep is capped each week.
Oh, no, don't
Because
cap it.
that would be the way to counter this, is that the rep
True.
would be capped.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
can only get friendly the first week. Oh,
Yeah, if they do that, then
biggest of all, though, Worgen cannot access the barbershop.
That's hilarious. They can't go to the barbers, but they can go to the groomers.
Yeah. It was like, they tried it and they're like, nah, it's too hard, bro. Next race, just sort it out.
then
yeah, go on, go. Yeah, go for it. I know what you're going to say.
there was also the Guild Finder and Guild Events Calendar. An original Cata patch 4.1, a Guild Finder system and a Guild Events Calendar were added to World of Warcraft. We intend to add the Guild Finder and Guild Events Calendar to Cataclysm Classic in a future patch after the launch of Cataclysm content. And then the last thing on there, increased drops in Wrath Classic dungeons. As detailed here, if you click on it, we've linked it in the chats, or I have. If
I've got it open now. I've got it open now.
Okay, cool. These increased drop rates for Wrath Classic dungeons will continue throughout the Cataclysm Classic pre-patch and possibly thereafter. Is that a hint at MOP, Scotty? Is that our first hint at Mr. Pandaria Classic?
No. What they're saying is like, it's only going to be relevant for a period of time in it because it's only Wrath dungeons and ICC and whatever. It's not going to remain relevant for very long.
They're talking about like the Gamma dungeons. Is that what they're talking about there?
Yeah, an extra like hard
I didn't
mode.
click on the link, but
Hard mode, drop in a guaranteed fragment of Valanir, ICC and wing bosses drop into Shadow Frost Shards, like all of that stuff.
But before the chat moves too far, we got to shout out Ashley with the super chat. I'm sad that makes those of us that are social /25-man raid tier not hardcore. Andy's not useful to the guilds we play with. Oh, like with the guild leveling system and stuff. Yeah, like you could go out there and you could farm your herbs or whatever. You could do your profession stuff and give your guild reward by doing that sort of stuff. I see exactly what she's saying, and I totally agree.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then there was another one from Tom. Sorry, Scott. Cata Hype, thank you guys for talking about how good Cataclysm is versus how Dragon Soul ruined the entire expansion and went down as one of the worst. Early release Cata is some of the best WoW. I hope it is. This is my first time that I'm going to do it as a PvEer. I did it in PvP last time, and it was very fun for PvP, so hopefully I have the same experience in PvE.
Yeah. I mean, I'm on board. Like, Cata's going to be great. Like, no matter all I'm reading from these posts though that we've been looking at is the fact that they rushed it. They've rushed it and they haven't had time to finish everything. It's not going to take away from the experience. Let's face it. If a Worgen can't go to the barbershop, like whatever, Guild Finder not being in, if they don't ever add it, I don't. Obviously, it would be nice to see it at some point, but it's not a big deal, is it? What I'm more intrigued by is all the like classes that don't work. Classes that don't work, heroics that don't work. That kind of thing. I'm more bothered about that than a Worgen not being able to go and change his hair.
Well, since they didn't address any of those issues, Scotty, obviously they've fixed them and they're going to launch like perfectly.
That was almost as bad as your segues.
They would have put that in the blue post if it was going to be an issue.
My totem bar still doesn't work, so I'm still throwing
it will on launch. It will on launch. Tomorrow, within like 20 hours from now, everything's going to be fine except for the hunter pets. Boomkin dots are going to crit, whereas they're not critting right now. It's
no dots are critting.
I thought one class had dots that crit. Was it like Shadow Priest? Or none of them are critting?
From what I heard, none of them was, but maybe Shadow Priest or something's working. I don't know. But...
Okay.
Should we move on to the main thing? Yeah, I was going to say, shall we move on to the reason we're here?
Healers in Cataclysm.
All right, go on, Joe. Let's let the guests give us a breakdown. So let's have Jay give us a little rundown on a couple of them and Willie on the other. So Jay, obviously Resto Shaman, you're going to be very, very comfortable with. So go on, give us a breakdown about Resto Shaman.
I've actually never played Resto Shaman in my life. So,
Moving on,
I don't know why
then.
you would think that.
There we go.
Yeah, Resto Shaman is amazing. And I genuinely think the most versatile healer in Cata. And they can do everything. They can do this atonement healing spec, which, a little bit of damage, raid healing, infinite mana. They can do tank healing easily, and good Resto Shamans can do tank healing amazingly well. And they synergize well with blood DKs and raid healing. Chain heal is a hell of a drug. So overall, a lot of your healing is going to come from like passive healing as well, which is really nice. Like healing stream totem, healing rain is all going to be just nice ticking healing. Earth living weapon does a lot. So generally it's going to feel good to play, which is fun.
Earth healing weapon?
Earth living.
Earth living. What is earth living weapon?
It's the healing imbuement for your weapon. So it has a chance. It has a chance to apply a hot, which is heavily increased if the target is low health. It can also apply through things like Healing Rain, which is your ground targeted AoE, which is kind of how the Atonement healing works, in fairness, is that you kind of stack Healing Stream Totem with Earth Living Weapon and Healing Rain on a group of people all stacked together, and the residual AoE healing with your mastery is just kind of insane.
So I've got a question for you. I know we talk a lot, but there's a lot of comments and even sort of some doomers in chat at the moment. They're not being negative for the sake of being negative. Like, I appreciate exactly what they're saying. But there's a lot of sort of, I don't know, a stigma building around Resto Shaman being like, well, why would you take one? Already I'm seeing in comments, on our podcast that we've done about Shaman, on videos that I've personally found out about Shaman, at your videos, that Resto Shaman's just not needed. They're the weakest healer in Cata. What's your thoughts around that?
They just aren't the weakest healer, and that's one thing that, like, clip it, post it on Reddit. Like, they just aren't the weakest healer. Resto Shaman has specific instances where it is god tier. A specific example is Chimeron. They can just absolutely hard carry Chimeron as a fight. Like, and there's not just one example of a fight. There's plenty of others. Nefarian is another one where they are exceptionally good at. I think they are easy to play, but have a high skill cap. Actually taking advantage of every Riptide with your chain heals, making sure you got the right totems out, making sure that you're maximizing, different percentage casts, because things like Healing Wave, I think I worked out the other day, Healing Wave as a whole just heals by itself. You then combine that with Unleash Elements, Tidal Waves, all these other things, and you can suddenly get your mastery. You can suddenly get what is a normal 100% healing wave to like a 250% healing wave. Very efficient heal, but it can like top a tank. The reason that they get this stigma is because they're not the best at anything all the time.
That's
so
fair.
Atonement or Disc is always the best at bringing damage while healing. Holy Pally is always a very, very strong contender for just being the best tank healer. They can do a little bit of everything else, but they're always the best at just being that, like keeping them tanks healthy. Resto Druid does healing on the move exceptionally well. Resto Shaman never does anything 100% like the best all the time. And I think that's why you're immediately going to lose some of that. But again, people have this, and there is a stigma, you are absolutely right, where Resto Shamans just are the weakest healer and no one's ever going to bring them. It's just not true. One, people are going to be desperate for healers, and because tanks are fun in Cata, right? You get Vengeance, they hit hard, they feel fun. You're basically a DPS with increased health. Healers are going to be needed in Cata. If you sign up as a healer, you're going to get invited, like especially in pugs. And yeah, Resto Shaman has this stigma, but it's just completely unwarranted.
Yeah, but I really like that explanation. Like, honestly, that was like so on the money that, yeah, I just agree wholeheartedly. You know, as in, yeah,
Can I add a dollar bill to it?
they're great. No, just like it is the fact that you're saying they're great on in certain circumstances. They can do a bit of everything, but you know they're not going to be able to AOE heal as well as, let's say, a Resto Druid. They're not going to single target heal as well as, let's say, a Holy Paladin. But they can just flex into just any of those healing styles and still perform really well.
And then one of the things that I didn't even realize until one of the episodes that we had, I think it was with Majay, when he mentioned how shamans can onk, and it's not included with the battle res restriction. And if you can have like a Holy Pally die and there's no shot, like the Holy Pally can't res themselves. So a Holy Pally needs a Druid or a DK to battle res them. And then that res is used, you can't B-res anybody else for that combat. But if it's a Resto Shaman dies, they can onk, come back. And then if they die again for some reason, then they can get battle resed. So to me, that adds like a lot of value to a shaman healer.
Your scenario there, Go, just made me think, hang on, why is Zach playing a Resto Shaman? He died, he yanked, he got rezzed, he died again.
I've played with some shamans, and some of them stand in mechanics because they have to stand and cast and heal, I guess, instead of a druid that's more mobile. So yeah, maybe they're trying to like squeak out that clutch heal to save the tank, and then they end up falling, but the tank lived. So now like they need to come back to life. So yeah, I'm trying to give some shout out to the Ankh utility. The power. The power of the Ankh.
So like I'll be playing like plan on having at least 3 shamans, 1 for each spec. My shaman will be raiding every week in GDQPs and pugs and all that sort of stuff. And I will be Resto. I will be PvE Resto, PvP Resto. I will not be switching.
Sorry,
Resto Shaman.
I feel like you've just said it was just building up to the point that I couldn't hold it in anymore. You just said shaman in about 3 different ways. You was like shaman, shaman. All in the same breath. You said it 3 different ways.
I play with Americans a lot, and they pick me up on the way I say words, so I'm very conscious about it. So I switch things constantly.
Sorry, carry on. It just made me chuckle.
No, you good. Like the blue class, the true blue class, the shamans, shaman, also brings like some of the biggest amount of burst damage to a boss. Like people don't consider that. You know, Fire Ellie Totem with spell power snapshotting, and actually just being able to do damage as well. Like they bring a lot of damage as well. Like people really, really underestimate Resto Shamies, and to their own peril, because they are like gods at just being the most versatile class and just being able to do everything. Like this priest in Cata, in Wrath, right? They do a little bit of healing. They're great at shields. Like you kind of have to have one. There's nothing like that in Cata, where it's like so overpowered you have to have one. So why not bring something that can do everything? Like a good Resto Shami will just like be a carry in a 10-man.
And then you would just expect that shaman to off-spec to enhancer.
Hell no,
Ellie, right? Like once you've cleared the content and you're lowering your healer group size down from 5 to 4, 4 to 3, you're gonna be looking at that shaman first probably and be like, hey, you don't really need your heals this fight. Can you?
I think that would depend on who you've got, Jay. Like just before you give your answers to that. You know, like let's say me and you was in the same group, and I'm on a Resto Druid, and you're on your Shaman, and then you know you just outperform me in every way. Why on earth would the raid leader put you as the DPS when they could put me as Boomy? You know, I think it would differ across raid groups.
That's fair.
Well,
yeah.
I mean, so let me do it like this, right? Resto Druids, you know, brings actually a surprising amount of tank healing. And a good amount of raid healing, right? So swapping a Resto Druid and a Resto Shaman, you're not actually losing much by switching either, right? In terms of what you're actually losing from your healing team. I would actually put it closer to like a Holy Pally, right? If you lose a Holy Pally, you're going to lose a lot of tank healing. You shouldn't be losing too much raid healing in a 25-man healing comp, which means that, you know, a Resto Shaman can still cover that tank healing role while also being better at the other roles. So you're losing less overall, you're just losing more in one area. So if you don't need tank healing, if your tanks are giga geared and they're blood DKs and they don't need healers, why would you lose a Resto Shaman over a Holy Pally? I think, like Scott said, it's really going to come down to who has the best DPS off spec and who is, you know, what do you need to lose? What's the best and most efficient thing to lose?
Yeah. Okay. So so that's Shaman overview. We're going to go into a bit more detail in terms of like pre-patch stuff. But let's like get through the healers first. So let's talk about Paladin first. So you're playing Paladin.
So Paladin, yeah. I'm planning on playing Paladin.
Paladin. I just wanted to say it. Paladin, yeah. What do you think about Paladin?
Oh, I've never played it. Yeah, no, it goes through a lot of changes from how it is in Wrath at the moment. There's a lot less of just spamming Holy Light and topping off health bars, and there's a lot more, I guess, rotation, I suppose, between pressing your heals that do a bit of healing, your heals that do a lot of healing. And it should be a lot more interesting to play in general. The one thing I'd say that changes, or it depends how you played it back then, but the positional requirement is quite often you'll be expected to be in melee, so you're meleeing for mana, and you also want Light of Dawn to hit people, and for Light of Dawn to hit people, they need to be in front of you. And that means you need to be positioned to somewhere where people will be in front of you as well, which may or may not always be convenient for you to do. But aside from that, you still have a lot of good cooldowns. You have Aura Mastery, you've got your Wings, you've got Divine Favor. So there is still a lot going on with the spec, and still puts out a ton of tank healing. That's really its main thing still. You have what's it called? Beacon of Light, but it is weaker than it is in Wrath. It doesn't replicate 100% of every heal to the beacon target. It's now 50% of every heal, or single target heals, other than Holy Light, which is still 100% of. But it's still very strong in that regard. So yeah, if you're going to play the Paladin, you'll definitely be brought along, and they're still very strong.
So this has made me think, because when I think of Paladin, I'm still thinking of Wrath of the Lich King, and I'm still thinking of Valinir. I'm imagining there's no use for having Valinir in phase 1 of Cata, but I feel like I had to bring it up. Like, are we going to see Paladins or any other healers with Valinir for any reason? Because it's a 20k like bubble cap, but it still seems kind of okay. But stats wise, probably not worth it to have.
I hadn't thought about that, honestly.
You
your
just don't get enough spell power.
No, and your mastery does exactly the same thing. So it's like, well, your mastery does the same thing, but better.
Yeah, I mean, your mastery is when you heal someone, they get a percentage for that heal as a bubble. But it's quite a small amount. So
yeah.
I mean, I guess not. But the thing is with Cata in general, the amount of stats on an item just goes up like astronomically.
Yeah.
More so than any other expansion.
And people's health is going to be, like tanks especially, they're going to be pushing what, like 200k in tier 11? At least 150.
Yeah,
I know with the gear we have at the moment on the 85 character copy with like heroic gear, we're above 100k as anything.
Yeah. Well, my Holy Paladin I'm on at the moment's got 120k, well 119k. Yeah, I mean the tanks are going to have a lot of health.
Yep, they're going to be real tanky.
Yeah, Holy Pally is cool. Yeah, I mean, I love it. Like, that's the only thing I'm not gonna enjoy about Cata is that I'm gonna be rep. You know, I'd love for my Paladin to be rep Holy, so I can actually flex my my Holy Paladin muscles in Cata. But I might have to just level another Paladin.
I was gonna say you should just have multiple of the same class because it's the best.
Yeah, I probably will have I think I will probably have a second Paladin that will be Holy and ret off spec. because I need 2 ret specs in Cata. So
I mean, you could have a paladin, you could have a paladin, and you can have a paladin.
Paladin.
Yeah.
But go on. You said so, Scott. What was you going to
Yeah.
say?
Do you want to do Resto Druid? Because I know you've dabbled in Resto Druid before, so I feel like you'd be the most knowledgeable on that one.
Yeah. So I mean, I love Resto Druid. I really do. The thing I love about Druid that I've said a million times on these Cata podcasts is how you can have 2 specs and fill every role. And fill every role like perfectly fine. You know, it's not like, oh, you've got to really lose anything major. It's like the only thing you're going to sacrifice is your ability to interrupt reliably when you're in feral, which there's plenty of people that can interrupt. You know, that's not a big deal. But you can literally be Resto, main spec, feral off spec, and you can spec in such a way that you can tank DPS and heal just as good as any other druid. Like that's a big positive for me straight away, because when I play a druid, I like to do more than one thing. Like, I could never be a druid who's got 2 resto specs, like I'm going to be a paladin with 2 ret specs. You know, I just couldn't do that. I like to play all the specs. But it changes. It still feels familiar. Like, it doesn't feel like massively different. It's more the way you manage your life bloom is a really big change. So on pre-patch day today for NA, if you're in my time zone, like life bloom at the moment, you'll be using with clear casting procs. It's less about the healing it does, more about the mana return. Well, now, like, you only can keep life bloom on one target, so you'll keep life bloom up on your tank, obviously the majority of the time, but then you can refresh it without refreshing it. So when you nourish the tank or you healing touch the tank, it will refresh life bloom. So you're playing a game where you're keeping life bloom rolling. You're keeping it rolling with direct heals, which is really, really nice. Let's face it, there's nothing worse than using a GCD on an ability that is already on the tank just for the sake of making it last longer. So now you can throw a nourish on to refresh it. But now clear casting is probably a big change. So your clear casting has a chance to proc from your life bloom ticks. So when you use Tree of Life, where Tree of Life is now your big cooldown, it's like your 3-minute cooldown, you can life bloom unlimited targets. So you can just life bloom as many targets as you want. So you're clear casting to just going boom, 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 like back to back to back to back, literally constantly. Because every tick, not application, every tick of life bloom has got a chance to proc clear casting. But then also while you're in Tree of Life, you can instant cast regrowth. So you're literally like, you know, life blooming, clear casting, regrowth, life blooming, clear cast, regrowth. Like, the output is absolutely insane. But quite honestly, the actual healing style hasn't changed all that much. You're still keeping rejuve, you know, your blanket rejuve in before, you know, a particularly big raid ability is coming in. You're still wild growth in. You're doing a lot more single target heals with like Nourish, because Nourish is now like your small, quite cheap heal. Like, I could literally keep a tank up on a boss. You know, I don't know, like if I was to pick a boss, let's say something like, I don't know, Omicron. In BWD, I would be able to keep the tank up and end the fight on full mana. That's it. I would literally just stack 3 life blooms and spam nourish on him. I'd end up on 100% mana. The tank would never lose any health. Like, Resto Druid is, in some ways, incredibly overpowered. But you've also got to think, you've got so much, like, raid healing potential, you know, for big cooldowns. So... Again, I appreciate some of you that have not played Cata or not played it for a really long time won't know the ins and outs of every boss that I talk about, but like Major Domo is there's a very cheesy way of killing the boss, which I do think will just be the norm in Classic, where you basically stack it in the Scorpion phase for as long as possible. So the boss turns into a Scorpion, and he does like a big AoE cleave on everyone who stood in front of him, but it splits the damage between everyone. Now, as he gains energy and stacks for being in Scorpion phase, it's going to progressively get bigger and bigger and bigger. Yeah, sorry, quicker and quicker and quicker. So it will be coming in more frequently. When you've got a Resto Druid that can literally got a big Tranquility, you know, that's going to last through 2 of them, you can then go Tree of Life Form, which is going to last through 2 of them. Like, it's just incredible output, like AoE healing wise. And you've got no positional requirements. You've got, like, nothing. Like you're just there, just pumping out heals. Biggest changes to Resto, I'd say I've covered. Honestly, it really is. It's very familiar feeling where you're keeping life bloom on a tank. You've got big cooldowns when you need them, and you're just going to be such an amazing healer. Like honestly, and you can even take a talent which is probably more known in Season of Discovery nowadays than it is in I've got to find the name of it myself. Fury of the Storm Rage. So you can even take talents where you can output some damage as well. So you can have literally, free 0 mana cost Wraths that you're pumping in, and then gives you a chance for an instant Starfire. So you can even put out damage. And there's many times where you'll use Tree of Lifeform as an offensive ability, because it also increases the damage done by Wrath, etc. There's like fights like Chimera on last phase. Nobody can take any healing. It enrages, and now it's like, we need to kill the boss before we die, because healing is reduced to 0. So if you've still got Tree of Life for some reason, or it's just come off cooldown because you used it in a phase where you're going to stack, you can now actually use your Tree of Life as an offensive cooldown as well. Mate, I could talk about Resto Druid for hours, because I think it's in such a good place in Cata that, like, Willie, yeah. I can't believe you didn't go Resto Druid.
Yeah, I mean, I literally agree. The only reason I didn't go Resto Druid is one, because when I play healer in an expansion, I want to always play healer. And I think healer is the role that stays the most interesting throughout a tier, because when you get on farm, you drop healers, and I don't want to be a healer that's dropped. If I'm playing a healer, I want to stick playing healer, and I'm kind of worried about that. And the other reason is that the GM went Resto Druid, so yeah, unlucky.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, can't do too much about that one. And I'll probably try it as an alt, to be fair, but I genuinely believe Resto Druid's the most fun healer of the expansion. By a long shot. They're so powerful if you play well with them. They've got healing that can match every single different type of damage that's coming in. There's always feels like there's something to do. Life Bloom doesn't last 7 seconds anymore, which it did in TBC, which is horrible. I absolutely despise that. Like, it was unplayable. And you can refresh with Nourish, like Scotty was saying, and they've still got the Innovate for themselves. That's pretty much exclusively for themselves. They have Combat Res, which is always nice. They've got great cooldowns, and they just do an enormous amount of throughput. Like, really, it's such a good healing spec for the expansion.
The mana efficiency is fucking bonkers as well. That's something...
Yeah, it's the regrowth. Clear casting, like, regrowth heals a lot, and you get clear casting pretty often.
Yeah.
Whenever you get it coming in, especially in tree form, you just send it off, and it's like, it heals someone for about half their health, and it's free.
I've been trying to get a clear casting proc off of Life Bloom on the beta. I haven't got a single one, and I've been chain casting.
I think it has to do effective healing.
It could be it, yeah. It could have to heal.
Okay, because you were saying that it could proc off of Life Bloom ticks.
Yeah,
it might. Talent, yes.
Oh yeah. Have you not got a talent?
Heal.
No, have you not got the talent though?
Oh, it has to be a talent too.
Yeah.
Yeah, you need a talent.
The gift of the Life Mother, I think it's called. Sorry, Malfurion's gift.
Tree.
Yeah, Malfurion's gift. You get a 4% chance.
But yeah, I'm a huge Resto. It would have been my first pick of healer, but again, GM went it, which is what it is, and it's just a... Like, yeah, if you're mainly a healer in a kind of more try-hard guild and you always want to play a healer, I think it's in your interest to play something that you feel cannot be swapped out. Because in ICC at the moment, we're dropping down to like 1 or 2 healers on some fights. And if you're that 1 or 2 healer playing something, it's like the fight is still fun. Like, DPS are just pressing their buttons and killing the boss, but you're like the guy that's got the raid on their back.
And I love that. I love that. Sorry, go. I love that even in like Alduar 10. Like solo healing, like the first Algalon kills, and not the first, but as in the first kills where we used one healer. Solo healing Algalon, solo healing all of the hard mode bosses. Like, yeah, everyone else is like, man, this is so fucking boring. This is so easy. It's like, yeah, sit in my fucking chair, mate. Like, I'm sat here sweating.
Yeah, that's the fun part about healers is again, like, people, you inevitably drop healers on farm, and it just makes the fights more fun. They're like no other role does this.
Do you expect it to go in a bit of a reverse for the pre-patch where you might have been 2 healing ICC and then you have to go back to 3 healing it? Or are healers going to be kind of the same strength-wise and you could probably go in with the same healers that you had before pre-patch launched?
I think for ICC will probably be okay because of the 30% buff, but like Hallion and Ruby Sank, honestly, like Hallion, he was made out to be this easy boss. It's not easy. Like Hallion can absolutely demolish your tanks in about a second if some, melee decides to parry haste him. So yeah, Hallion will probably still be quite challenging, but ICC, you'll probably be fine. There'll be people queuing up to say, I'm going to play healer. I want to play healer, even if it's not efficient, because I want to see how it plays. So I think you'll be fine either way.
I also expect that the fights are going to last such a short amount of time that there's not really much of an issue or risk of going which is something that I would see as maybe being the only big issue for pre-patch healers.
Yeah, do we think they're going to last?
Spells.
So I've wondered that whether we do how quick we think they're going to last, because from like what I've seen, even just at level 80 in like 5-man dungeons, I'm talking doing Blackrock Caverns, Throne of the Tides. Like I don't feel like anyone's doing crazy damage at level 80 on the beta. Is that damage going to go up or down?
I know my damage goes up.
Well, your class and everything. Like I've been on the beta, so I've got a feel for how balancers are going to feel. But anybody that hasn't played their class and their new spec and all their new rotations and stuff, at least week 1, I think there's going to be a dip down on the overall DPS. Fights might be a little bit longer.
That's how I feel.
Maybe week 2 it gets back to being like the same as it was the last week of ICC, and maybe the last week of pre-patch, people know their shit and they're like, all right, let's blast through ICC, and they get the bosses down pretty quick.
I think something that's going to be important for I say all roles, healers and DPS, is, enhancement chamois, a good chunk of our BIS is leather. I know rep pallies are similar. I think there's a lot of people that aren't going to have their armor specialization available day 1, which is going to be hurtful. Like that's 5% main stat.
Yeah, that's me. I don't have full leather gear on my tune.
Yeah, and if you send a raid with what's like good at the moment, like, would you do as well with a bunch of fire mages, fury warriors, feral druids compared to other stuff in the pre-patch? I don't know. I think you'd want to swap your comp up a bit if you can.
So I genuinely believe, and it's not because I'm playing a lot of fire mage, but I think fire mages are going to be disgusting in the pre-patch if they fix combustion. With combustion fixed, I think fire mage is honestly going to be vile, the amount of damage they'll be able to do. But
you can combust like Lich King on the Valkyries.
Oh, exactly.
There's like that ability just is not well balanced, but in a fun way.
At the moment, though, everyone, like people who are not in the know, are seeing combustion on the beta and that, and I don't know, maybe they're taking it at face value, but combustion on the beta and the PTR is doing literally like 7 or 8% of the damage that it actually will be doing. Like it will be like mental numbers if it's fixed before the pre-patch, which I mean highly unlikely. They can't even fix a barbershop. So
toxic.
Okay, all right, so I've done Resto Druid. We've just got Disc Priest left. Is that right? Is that not Disc Priest, but just Priest in general? Yeah. Okay, well, do you just want to do it between yous then? Willie and Jay, see what you've come up with?
Disc Priest, you're
not
still going to be shielding everybody.
You know.
Shit.
Go on, whichever one you want to jump in.
Scott took the one role that Go might have had knowledge on.
No, I know shit about healing. Like I've never healed. I healed Shaman for PvP at level 85, and we didn't get 2K rating, so that's my experience for healing.
Okay, so bad then.
PvP and not 2K.
I will talk about Holy Priest, but I'm already going to say that I am not the biggest fan of Holy Priest. It changes substantially in Cataclysm to a point where Holy gets chakras and power word abilities, so chakras allows you to switch your abilities to be more either single target damage or AoE focused. And I really hate the idea that I have to decide which one of those I want to do. And it has power word abilities which relate to the chakra that they're in. So they have to kind of like pre-decide what they want to do. And for me, I'm just not a massive fan of that. However, I will say that the people that are great at predicting when that's going to be needed are very, very good. And the healing they'll be able to pump out is just kind of insane. That's all I got.
Yeah, I mean,
good.
Cataclysm Holy Priest really is all about the chakras. You can pick one of two. I think you can activate it every 30 seconds.
Yeah.
And it's going to empower your single target heals. So your Holy Word, what's it called? I forget the baseline version. It's like Sanctuary or something. It becomes an AoE heal or a single target one. And that is the big crux of the spec. Other than that, it's just kind of your standard Holy Priest sphere. You're pressing Renew, Prayer of Mending, Prayer of Healing, all that other stuff. But it is ultimately down to understanding the fights and which chakra you should be in for the correct moment. Also, you get a much reduced cooldown on Divine Hymn, and your Divine Hymn is like way better than Disc.
Oh god, yes! Like
it heals a lot more.
I would say it's the strongest like HPS cooldown in the game.
I think it's better than Trank.
I was going to ask, over Twang? Trank?
Yeah.
It's like 100% more, and it has like half the cooldown.
Do you still get the mana one as a priest too? The mana hymn?
Yeah. Hymn of Hope.
Yeah, you get both. And
you want to stack
the same way, Hymn of Hope.
Yeah.
I think most people's experience in Cata will be kind of what mine's been like when I've played a priest. So like, I can show you guys now. Like I've played a priest for ages as Holy and Disc. You know, I've got no shadow spec. I'm literally Disc Holy. Holy has got its place. Like I don't care what anyone says. There's certain fights where Holy is very, very strong, like stronger than Disc. But what you'll do is what I've done and what I remember people doing back in the day as well, where like every patch that would come out, people would be like, right, this is it. This is the one. We're all going Holy. This is going to be great. They'll go Holy for one fight and they'll be like, man, fuck this. I'm going back to this. You know, and it will happen. And I'm the same. I'm like, I'm healing this whole raid as Holy. Like, absolutely can do it. And you absolutely can. Like, if you're a Holy enjoyer, you know, you'll absolutely, and very, very well as well. Like, I'm not saying there's anything bad about Holy. Like, Holy is fine. But when you're like, Disc is so much easier. Like, it's as simple as that. It requires so much less concentration, just an easier class to play, and a good all-rounder.
So, I mean, on private servers, we used, like, our priest was Holy Disc, or Disc Holy, I should say. So fights like Major Domo, where it's like, okay, we need lots of healing for our prog of this. Holy was what we used. Yeah. And then there's other time where it's like, okay, now, like when we're talking about examples of healers that are going to get switched into, right, okay, we no longer need that massive HPS check. I think Holy's going to be one of the first on the chopping block, but they do have also Disc then that can bring a little bit of damage while still being able to heal. So being able to play both, I think, is going to be quite helpful for them.
I think Holy's fun. Holy in terms of like engagement while you're playing. I think Holy Priest is more engaging and more fun to play than Disc, but Disc is easier and like for 20% of the concentration you'll get better results. That's how I feel.
I don't like the fact personally. I'm a Shaman fanboy, so and Holy and Resto Shaman do very similar things in that they're versatile, so they can do a little bit of everything. I don't like the idea that I have to choose what I want to do as a Holy Priest. But again, like the people who are super knowledgeable about fights, if you want to make Holy work, there's definitely a place to do that.
Is there stat differences in gear where like Holy is going for haste and Disc is going for mastery to where you couldn't kind of like swap between the two specs fight to fight because unless you had two completely sets of like different gear?
I don't think you're going to grief by playing like the same gear set. I might be wrong with that, but I don't think they're going to grief massively.
Mastery is going to be strong for both. Mastery increases the hot that you're going to put on after direct heals from Holy, or the power of your absorb effects as disc. So, overall, I don't know if you'd get more haste potentially as a Holy. No, I even take the haste in disc. So no, I don't even think it would affect haste breakpoints, to be fair, for things like renew or anything like that. So no, I reckon you could do it with exactly the same gear set. Maybe it would be more optimal. I don't know. As in if you was Holy, it might be more optimal to have slightly more haste for when you're putting your AoE healing down on the floor. Maybe that gets additional ticks or something. But I've always just been in my disc gear and switched to Holy and never really worried about it.
I've got a big question. It's like a 3-part question here, and whoever has any insight, go for it. Are there any special trinkets to look out for in phase 1? Because we've got Darkmoon Fair trinkets. Might be a little delay, like 2-3 weeks until you can get those trinkets when Darkmoon Fair comes out. Tolbarad trinkets, I know for tanks and even as a DPS caster, those have some value. So are there any Tolbarad healer trinkets to look out for? And then the last part, do priests use on-use trinkets instead of proc trinkets? So engineering might lose a little bit of value for healers because they're gonna want to use that proc, or that they're gonna want to use that on-use. Sorry.
Let these guys take it away first.
There's a lot of trinket questions. Yeah.
I mean, for trinkets and phase 1, if I can comment on something, is I hope you like archaeology. There's a trinket called Taranda's favorite doll from Ninth Elf Archaeology, and as I understand it, it's pretty amazing throughout pre-bis and actual bis for a lot of healers.
Yeah, stores mana to restore it at a later time.
It gives you a bunch of intellect, which is great for your healing. It stores a bunch of your mana, and then on use, you can use the mana that's stored, causing you to gain that much mana. And enemies nearby you take some damage on a 1-minute cooldown. So it's just a bunch of stats of mana restored back to you. And that is not a Darkmoon thing, that's archaeology. So you can do that in the pre-patch if you want to. I'm going to be doing that because I'm playing a Holy Paladin, and that's a good trinket. So that's where I'm at.
The Tolbarad trinket is a spirit with intellect proc, which is kind of probably the worst combination of the way that works.
I'd expect it to be reversed, like an intellect spirit proc.
There is an intellect spirit proc one, but that comes from the raid. For, I believe, because don't Resto Druids innovate also scale off spirit as well?
No, it's just percent base mana.
Because I know Mana Tide Totem scales off actual statted spirit, and the trinket isn't bad for us to run just so that we can be mana batteries for the raid. But yeah, I mean, in terms of the actual usage of the trinket, I don't imagine many people are going to rush to specifically get exalted just for that trinket. The Valor Point trinket is, you'd use the same one as DPS, which is mastery and then a spell power on use one.
Oh, Core of Ripeness is nice.
I missed that one. Yeah, that's true. Spirit on use.
Yeah, I'd probably if I was on a Holy Paladin, I'd probably go for Core of Ripeness I'd probably go Core of Ripeness and Tsunami. Them two would do me. But then you're probably going to want to be spending your Valor points on tier. So maybe as an alt it would be good, but as a main you're probably going to want to be exclusively using all your Valor points on tier to begin with.
I know from Resto Druids, I plan on going Tyrandes and Tsunami, and until I get one of those, I'll be running Witching Hourglass or Tendrils.
Yeah.
I just saw another update to Season of Discovery. I just have to gripe here really quick. So they fixed that Warlock pets will not just be called Felguards. They'll have random names. but we can't get the Worgans to have their barbershop work. Well, I see where the focus is from the development team.
I think everyone
Scotty-
everyone sees that.
Yeah, Scotty, bring us back to the healing discussion. I brought us into that topic of the trinkets. What do you have?
Well, no. So just to add to that, like just really briefly, because what I was looking at, the reason I was so quiet was I was actually going through the calendar in game, looking at what events happen around that time. Because obviously, if it was like Brewfest, which I know is obviously ages away, you're gonna get trinkets. But around 4 weeks after launch, we're gonna have Midsummer Fire Festival. So you're gonna likely be able to kill a hoon and get a decent cape. I don't know if that's going to be scaled up to. I can't remember what he drops in actual Cataclysm, if I'm honest with you, but
365, if I remember.
That's what I thought it was, but I
kid.
didn't want to say that because that's the same as the Firelands quest.
Yeah, which you could do on the beta.
And doesn't he also drop the scythe?
Scythe as well, yeah.
I'm trying to find the scythe.
It's nice, yeah, it's nice. I mean, I could have a quick look on the Cataclysm database and look at a hoon. Frost Scythe of a hoon at level 85 is 353 item level.
That's still going to be better than heroics, although the ones I'm looking at don't have main stat on.
Let me put it on screen so everyone can see. No, it's got stamina, literally. That's it. Stamina, crit haste, spell power. What else does it? Can I see what it drops from? If I go to a hoon, because we're talking a month after launch. That's not too bad to be able to get a decent bit of gear, even if it's just for your ults that are freshly dinged.
It's going to be an amazing PvP and probably a prog staff, but losing 300 intellect is just painful.
Yeah.
Like I won't be running this in PvE at all.
Find the name of the items. I'll keep looking. I need to find the name of the items, but it was just a little bit off topic, but it was just what I've seen in terms of coming events shortly after launch where you can actually get some gear. Because then there's nothing for a bit, to be fair, not where it would be relevant. So, but yeah.
So
healers. Have we
yeah.
covered everything in terms of overview of healers?
KH asked a question. Can anyone comment on the damage taken expectations in pre-patch ICC for tanks? Most of the guides are recommending we go back to all stamina avoidance stats, and that was odd to me. So that was making me just think, not even just pre-patch, but phase 1 of Cata, are there any big hitting tank mechanics, and are healers going to be able to keep up with that because of how strong their single target heals are and stuff like that? Or is there going to be a big tank buster where it's oh shit, we need more than one healer on the tank for this mechanic because the tank is just getting crushed?
There will be times where you have to external the tank. So Magmor, you'll need to external tanks, Chimeron for double attacks. There will definitely be times where you won't just be able to take just hits constantly. But I would argue that most of the time it's going to be based on your tanks. So, Blood DK can do a lot of this by themselves, and that's what makes them very strong. It should then be on them to call for additional help as and when they need it. In terms of pre-patch, that's actually really interesting because, Pallies are so strong currently. Prop Pallies are so strong. I don't know how they're going to play in the pre-patch because they won't be unhittable. So I genuinely don't know how they're going to perform actually as tanks. I'm probably tank is definitely my weakest role by a mile.
Is parry haste gone in Cata, right?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah.
Will that include Wrath content? Because
yeah, if
there's
Ruby
some
Sanctum
bosses that
can't
if they get parry
haste,
hasted, delete your tank.
Yeah, if Halion can't parry haste, then that's some easy 2-8-4 gear.
That's just a thought.
Yeah, very possibly. I mean, I want to try and keep it on topic with healers, but me and Jay have been talking the last couple of days about the actual whole lockout system, which there's still not been too much clarification around. And, you know, are they doing anything with the loot? They didn't back in the day, but if you can only do 10 or 25 man now, you know, could they make it so 10 man drops the same as 25? Well, I mean, these are all things that they should have been talking about and done ages ago, but I know it is really off topic, but I just want Willie's thoughts on it. Like, what's your understanding of how the raid lockout system works in pre-patch from what they said in their announcement?
In pre-patch,
Mhm.
I'm none the wiser, to be honest.
Well, they put out that
I couldn't tell you from anything different from how it works now.
Well, they've put out that it's on a
no
boss-based
idea.
loot. It's a boss-based loot system, and you can do
Yeah.
either 10 or 25 man. But it's so like cryptic that for me, it sounds like it's going to work exactly the same as it did back in original pre-patch, where you like on heroic you could only do 10 or 25. Like simple as that. You know, once you've gone in 10 heroic, you're locked to it. Whereas Jay thinks it's more. Well, Jay, you can speak for yourself.
I've actually changed my mind with this. The more I've read into it, I think they've just poorly worded. I agree with you. I think they've poorly worded the way it's going to work, the way it worked originally in Cata.
Yeah.
So I've kind of changed my mind on it a little bit. Like I think it was almost wishful thinking. I would like the retail system, but I think they've just really, really poorly worded the Cata version, which is you can do 10 or 25, but you can swap between them, but only to a lockout that has the same number of bosses killed as you, and you can't swap if you have a heroic lockout.
Yeah, so exactly the same as Cata.
It is super restrictive still, if that's the case, because like if you go in and kill Halphus and the group disbands because Halphus is very easy, and then suddenly you get dragons, and then the group disbands, and then you have to try and find another group that disbanded at Halphus to remake, and yeah, like it just becomes stressful. Whereas the retail version would have been so much easier.
Well, the thing is, if you killed Halphus on heroic, you can't even find a group that's at Twin Dragons because you're locked to your own ID now. But yeah, I don't know. I would put it out as a word of warning to people. This is why I want to bring it up, because it is, you know, the title of the podcast is the day before pre-patch, and I think that's something that everybody should bear in mind. You know, if you're bored waiting for the servers to come up tomorrow, watching this back, be very mindful if you're thinking, God, I'm going to rush into an ICC 10 pug and try and work out what I'm doing with my rotation, because then you might find yourself being left out of your main 25-man guild night because you're now saved. So, you know, it's more of a word of warning to everyone, because I'm very skeptical about doing it myself. So we're doing it, I think, aren't we, Jay? But we're going to like do an alt run.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, especially with the guild changes being confirmed, that's how they work. I want to get to Revered as quick as possible.
Yeah.
Do a Nax 10 first and see if you get locked to Nax 25.
It's only ICC. None of the other raids are affected.
ICC.
Or ICC and ICC and RS.
RS, yeah.
Yeah, all the others are the same.
I think the plan at the moment, and again, we should be able to give more information on this tomorrow for people if you're not sure. So, like, kind of bear with or come and check the stream and things like that. But I think the plan at the moment is we're going to go and kill kill Marrogat on 10, then go out, switch it to 25 and check, and then kill Death Whisper on like heroic 10 and go out and check. So we should have the answers within, you know, a little while of the servers being up, hopefully. But yeah, I mean, the fact that we haven't had just this confirmed by devs is kind of a joke.
Yeah, they've just put it out and assumed that everyone knows what they're talking about, when we know how the raids work in Wrath, we know how the raids should work in Cata, and between us, we can't even work out what they're trying to say. Cool. Okay, so anything else like healing wise you want to talk about? We gave an overview of the classes. You know, any watch outs for for people pre-patch when they're healing? Like thoughts on is mana going to be a struggle in the pre-patch in ICC, or is it just going to be like, because of how inflated the stats are compared to our level and how the ratings work, is everything just going to feel busted in terms of mana regen?
Yeah, so Scotty, I was bowling in a league.
I'm out. I'm done. I'm going to
Yeah.
bed.
See you
Here
guys.
we go.
I mean, Jay spoke on that a little bit with like Mana Tide Totem. We still have replenishment. We still have Hem of Hope. So there's still some mana return stuff. But if the fights do last a little bit longer, then is there one healer spec that might struggle on mana that if a fight is 20, 30 seconds longer than it is right now, with their changes, they're like, hey, I'm running sorry guys.
Unless tanks start getting hit extremely hard, of which I presume every raid is just going to have a blood DK solo tank everything anyway. I can't imagine that we're going to struggle too much for mana. I mean, I've planned on not to go back to Resto Shaman too much, but I'm going to go back to Resto Shaman because it's the best class. Fight me. Resto Shaman can run the mana return lightning bolt spec with a crap ton of crit and just have infinite mana. So, like, and I'm sure other classes will be able to do something similar. Like Disc Priests are going to be exceptionally strong with Atonement, just DPSing generally anyway. So, yeah, I don't know if Atonement actually double dips with the 30% buff either from ICC, because if so, Disc Priests are just going to be broken.
It should do, yeah. The more damage you do.
I wonder about Lich King. It's like you can't like cheese in not in what's it called, Infest anymore with Disc Priest shield.
Oh shit! Yeah, that's a really good point. That is yeah.
Oh god, the
That's
reprog
fucking
on
big.
Lich King is going to be real.
So it's yeah, that might actually be kind of hard. I don't know. Like we do have a lot of bonus healing and stuff, but at the moment you can just your Disc Priest sits there. They just press shield for the entire fight. You can't do that anymore. You'll go boom. You go boom before the second Infest comes out.
No, and I mean you're actually going to need, like healing rains down under the ranged, and maybe like AOE heals going on the melee, or
Bear with me, but I also don't think we get healing rain till like.
Oh, is it in the
later
80s?
on.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it might be 81. Yeah.
Yeah, that could be
God.
tough, Willie. Yeah, I've not even thought about that.
Yeah.
That's quite scary, thinking about Infest and actually having to heal through it properly.
Yeah.
Cata Beta has just started an update. I'm excited.
Your 1% chance at invincible, by the way.
What about the fourth boss, Sarfang? Because isn't there like pally buffs that go out that kind of negates the mark effect? Is that going to change too?
Well, you'll still be doing that.
I think the boss is just going to fall over. If I'm completely honest.
Yeah, I mean
Okay,
we're one healing it, so
I didn't know if there was just like a lot of pally cheese for that
he
fight.
just dies.
Okay.
You get like one set of ads. I don't know. People are doing a lot of damage these days. Like people are doing like 25k DPS single target. I don't know if they'll even be doing that in the pre-patch. Maybe they will. It's hard to tell.
Yeah, it is hard to tell. But I mean, I'm excited to see. It's the same update version as a RAF PTR update. Oh, everything's still broken.
Nice.
Good to know. I won't even bother looking. Yeah, but no, Infest I think's a really good shout. Like how that's going to be handled. I think people like if I was to try and sum it up as a healer in the pre-patch in your first ICC, maybe pay a little bit more attention to your mana, pay a little bit more attention to what your heals are meant to be doing. So, in terms of as a paladin, where Holy Light is your filler, let's call it a filler. As a Resto Druid, Nourish is your filler. As a priest, Heal is your filler. As a Resto Shaman, well, we're not going to take any Resto Shamans, but it's they ain't got healing rain. What's the point? There's no point in coming, surely, in pre-patch.
Chain heal, bro. Spirit Link. Yeah. You wait till Defile goes bad and you're calling for a Spirit Link, and we're just going to be sat there. No.
But yeah, I think just look at your heals and understand which ones you're meant to be spamming. Like you can get away with spamming your fillers, the ones that I've already mentioned, and then use your bigger heals when you need them. Be quite reserved with your big AoE heals that cost a lot of mana that you would ordinarily just press just to try and snipe as many heals as possible. And I do want to just end that whole sentence with, I could be completely wrong and mana's not an issue and you can fucking just spam whatever you want. because ultimately the last time any of us was in the pre-patch was back in 2010 or 2009, whenever it was, and a lot's changed since then. So I suppose my guess is as good as everyone's, but just taking Cata experience on board, yeah, look at your mana, be a bit more reserved with it, and know what your spells are doing.
And with the beta, like if I copy my character, I gain like 10,000 health and like 10,000 mana. And spells, I think, were reduced mana cost wise across the board as a balanced druid. So maybe that's the same thing for healers too. So a lot more health, but also a lot more mana. And if spells are costing cheaper to cast, it might not be that bad. But the last topic, Scotty, stop me if you don't want us to move on to it, because it's the big beta bug report. So Scotty made a channel in his Discord for people to list bug reports that were on the beta on the PTR, and we're less than 20 hours from launch of the pre-patch. So if you want to dig into the bug reports that we've gotten.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean, we can fly through them. We don't need to talk about them too much, do we? Yeah, just go. Well, do you want to read through them? Yeah, I don't know. I've done enough talking. My throat hurts, so I'll just drink more.
I gotta find the channel here really quick. I know there was the podcast questions. Where was the?
It's in the cataclysm section.
Cata section.
Bug reports only. And guys in chat, this is your time to, or if we don't mention any of the bugs that you know of your class, where you're putting loads of testing in on the beta, and you want to add anything in chat, I will go read through them. I will be really focusing on what you guys are saying. And if you say any that are not actually in the channel at the moment, I'll put them in there. So if you know of any bugs that we don't mention now, feel free to just shout them out.
All right, so shout out to Chunk, has
big
been
Chunk.
putting out. Big Chunk left us a super chat right at the end of the last episode. I got to shout out Chunk for that last super chat there as we were ending the show. And Chunk's also been making some Cata mage videos. Shout out to that too. So if you're looking for mage stuff, I'm sure if you searched Chunk mage cataclysm, you could probably find his channel. I don't know it off the top of my head, but Chunk was saying Shaman Bloodlust isn't affecting all party members. Fire Mage Flame Orb doesn't stop when reaching an enemy. Some professions don't award skill points for yellow crafts. Yeah, that's been a thing since day one, I know.
They've all been a thing since day one. This is the issue. When we go through these, it's not like it's not like these are new bug reports. These are things that we've been reporting since day one of the beta, and none of them are getting fixed. But your Felguard will get a unique name now on Season of Discovery. So I don't know.
Nice.
Nice.
There was a couple other ones. Like he's been posting a lot of stuff in here. So some people's accounts, when leveling up a character, their game crashes. So like as soon as you ding from 15 to 16, your game crashes. You log back in, you ding from 16 to 17, your game crashes. That's been a thing I've been hearing a lot of people complain about.
That could make for an interesting leveling stream.
Yeah. Take a shot every time your character DCs. Cannot teleport in or out of dungeons and cannot leave dungeon party without a script. So if you queue up a random dungeon and you finish that dungeon, you can't just like click the little icon up in your mini map and leave the dungeon. You have to have a script in order to leave it. And it's been like that all beta, and it's been frustrating. And there's also been one where like to teleport out, somebody had a script to teleport out of the dungeon, which you could have a script for that too. And I was like, yo, is this guy like a dev? Like how do you know this script? It was kind of shocking, but weird to have to use a script to do basic things. And then cannot place mage teleport / portal abilities on your action bar.
Oh, that's so annoying. That is so annoying.
There is a way around that. You've seen that, right?
No?
You can put it into a macro and then teleport Ogrimmar into a macro and then put the macro on your bar.
Oh yeah, but you can
demons actually.
But that's a single teleport.
The interface. Yeah, the bar that you drag out. It's same with Warlock Demons actually. I was wondering about that.
Yeah, it's really, really irritating. But then you would still need to put like a macro for each one of them on your bar, which makes it exactly the same as RAF, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, Felguard's not a Fellstorm
No?
at all. No. It's just not there.
What's your Felguard called, though? I assume it's at least got a decent name.
Exactly.
though.
He's called Fellstorm.
He's got a name though, bless him. We don't have no Fellstorm. But yeah, that hasn't been. I was on it today actually. They still didn't have Fellstorm.
Thing is, I hate opening my my spell book for anything. You know, like it is so irritating. The whole beta where every time I want to teleport somewhere, I've got to open a spell book, go to teleport, click on teleport, look at where I want to go. Like it is. I know these are things that I'm really hoping work in the pre-patch later on today in less than 24 hours. But it just don't fill me with hope when they've never worked.
Yeah. It's like usually, when things don't work in a pre-patch, you're a solid month away from the game releasing and you're like, I'm sure they'll fix them. But it's literally today.
Yeah.
So it's it doesn't fill me with hope.
I have thoroughly enjoyed the entire copium around it, though. Like, the amount of people like, no, we're like 5 patches behind and all this good stuff. And then the next patch comes and it's like, no, we're like 4 patches behind. It's fine. And then the next patch comes and everything that was broken originally is still broken. And we've had like 7 different updates and nothing's changed.
I'm hoping when pre-patch launches, it's Mr. Pandaria, and it turns out there was a whole expansion behind. That's why they've not been bothered about any of it not working. It's like, surprise, motherfuckers.
Yep.
They'd be like,
It's actually just Plunderstorm.
Yeah.
we couldn't get Bastion of Twilight to work, so you guys are going back to Nax Ramus. We're doing a Wrath Classic Part 2. I hope you enjoy your tier 8, 9, and 10 raids all over again.
But with Cata talents that almost work.
Yeah. So Blink looks like they had some issues with leveling up a priest. Started trying to level my 15 S priest, and I have 0 spells besides Mind Blast. Tried respecking in just about every other option, but I am able to type /cast Mind Flay, and it works like that. So yeah, as long as you're just typing out your spells, pre-patch is gonna be sick.
Pop it in a macro. There you go.
No, I'm gonna type it every time. I'll be like, guys, bear with /cast Mind Flay, and then when they're like, man, you didn't move out of that void zone, it was like, I was fucking typing. What do you want me to do?
I was typing /move to the right. Come on.
Yeah. /strafe right.
Yeah. They also said, I noticed on the PTR that you can't open a mailbox without the game crashing. It's been weird that PTR and beta have been on different patch updates or whatever you want to call it. Like stuff doesn't work on the PTR, it does on beta. Stuff works on beta, it doesn't work on the PTR. That whole thing has confused the hell out of me. Tropic Pingo? Death Strike for Blood Decay doesn't properly convert Frost and Holy Runes to Death Runes. After one Death Strike, one Frost and Holy Rune is converted to a Death Rune, but the other Unholy Rune goes on cooldown. After using 2 Death Strikes, you end up with 2 Death Runes for the Frost Runes and 2 normal, unconverted Unholy Runes.
And this is why I don't play Blood DK, because I understood about 50% of what you just said.
Yeah, I tried to.
I just understood his name.
About the runes, and I still didn't know after Subtle was done talking. I was like, runes are just, I don't get it.
Yeah, no, I see what you mean.
The DK video, I was like, I am thoroughly confused by this rune.
Yeah.
I'm really trying to understand it and make it simple, but I am so confused.
So did it just end up, Willie, with being, right, guys, so firstly the rune system changes, and then the screen just goes black for about 3 minutes, and then you just go on to something else.
It's like, changes. If you play a DK, you might notice it. You might not. I don't know.
Moving on.
Yeah.
So with the whole guild change system, you can't just type /G space and then type to your guild. You have to use like the in-game guild stuff, right, Scotty?
Yeah, I mean, not for everyone, which is weird.
I can talk in guild.
Yeah, Jay can talk in guild, but I have to have the guild panel open to be able to see what he's saying. So yeah, I don't know whether that's like pre-made characters can see it and copied characters can't, because there's been a lot of that as well. There's a lot of people that will be complaining about issues on their copied characters, like hunters not having a pet bar or something. But then if you do a template character, it works fine. So there's a lot of that going on. Which, I mean, how, I have no idea, but that is like factually accurate.
We have somebody named Scottejaye. It says Dead Minds Hardcore or Heroic.
Oh, cool.
Glubtok, GLLUBTOK, has no ads. Helix bombs barely do any damage. Gauntlet at the end. All spiders spawn when they should be phased. Also, constant phasing in and out on Admiral Rip Snarl. So this is all.
That's one heroic. One heroic, and almost every bus don't work. I almost wanted to put on there as well the fact that Cookie's food is like on skateboards and just moves around whenever it feels like it. But I thought I'll leave that off because it actually adds to the content. It makes it fun. Like, you can leave that one in. Yeah, you can leave that one in because it honestly, the first time on, when we all dinged 85 and went straight into Dead Minds, I was fuming. I mean, I was a bit pissed as well. So obviously, I get a bit more emotional when I'm streaming pissed. But I'm like, every time I went to click, the food would move away. So like, I'm like literally just trying to like click on the food because there's no other way to. Well, I'm saying that there might be a macro. If you was to make a macro like interact with each good food. And then the whole time you're doing it, you spam that button. Guys, genius idea.
Oh, fuck that idea. I hate it. Get rid of it right now. But delete that part from the VOD. No.
I'm just grabbing a beer.
You've seen the kind of, joke comedy things where they go to pick someone up and kick it forward. That's how I imagine Scott trying to pick up food on Cookie.
Yeah.
He just keeps kicking it across the room.
We have Stonecore, the final boss, High Priestess Azil, doesn't throw out the boulder when she moves up to the platform. I don't even know what boulder that is because I've done that a few times.
When she transitions, there's like a big orange circle that she puts on the floor, and then she yeets a boulder at it, which she just doesn't do. Like, she has one mechanic during that phase, and she doesn't do the one mechanic.
Yeah, I'm just used to avoiding the void zones, getting in range to still nuke her down while the ads are just coming in, and the ads have no health, so the ads just kind of melt to any AoE damage, and I'm just full blasting on her.
Yeah, sounds about right.
Yeah, throw a boulder in there. Okay, I'll avoid the boulder. I can do that. Flo, talking about Shadowfang Keep, the first boss, Baron Ashburn. The stay of execution ability cannot be interrupted, and the boss heals back to almost full HP each time it's casted. And it's like a 50-60% boss heal. So
I've got PTSD, man.
Oh my gosh, yeah. You get the boss down, you're like, oh yeah, we're making good prog. And then you get asphyxiated, and then you get the stay of execution, and then the boss just fully heals. And then you might make it down to like 35%, and then the boss heals up to 95%. And then you get down to 30%, the boss heals up to 90%. It's just like it's a long fight for no reason. And then if the asphyxiate and the transition happens at the same time, it's a pretty much guaranteed wipe. Like, everybody gets dropped down to like 1 health, and then the angel, like the dark angel form happens or whatever it's called, and then all this AoE damage comes out, and it's just like boom, like 3 people are dead. 4 people are dead. The tank is still alive because tanks are tanky if it's a DK. But yeah, that fight has been crazy.
I have to ask on that. I presume you guys tested it. Does healing reduction work to reduce that at all? Okay.
Yes. Yeah, but so what Chunk's talking about?
Bugged.
Yeah, what Chunk's talking about. So we done a run where we had Stark in the group. And Stark was on his hunter, obviously, so he was doing Widow's Venom, so it was 25% less. Like, that's cool. We was actually, when we was nuking it, in between each heal phase, you could see big chunks of his health coming off. But when me and Chunk done it the other night, all we had was a Shadow Priest. It was for the fucking majority of it anyway, so keeping the Mind Blast debuff up was probably quite challenging for him, because it was a nearly 13-minute fight. 13 minutes on a 5-man heroic boss.
I didn't know you were progging Season of Discovery.
Yeah.
Oh, it's toxic. Like, honestly, again, it's such a basic mechanic. I'm sure it's going to get fixed. You know, I have no doubt by the time it launches, it's going to be fine. But it's been like it since launch. Again, it's something where, like, a boss where its primary mechanic, I want to point that out, its primary mechanic is to interrupt it, and you can't interrupt it.
I mean, that does make it hard mode, and you've been asking for hard mode heroic, Scotty. So if it doesn't get changed, then hey, deal with the fucking mechanic that doesn't work.
Honestly, mate, if you want to learn your rotation, and I mean this to anyone, if you're on the beta and you want to learn how to do your rotation properly in a boss environment, go and do the first boss in Shadowfang Keep. You'll get a good 10, 12 minutes where you can just do your rotation constantly. You know, there's nothing. It's fine. Keep it as it is.
Without a shaman, without a mage, you have no bloodlust, you have no time warp.
Yeah.
To burst it down when you think you're getting close. Yeah, that fight was kind of fun.
Gathering still not giving XP as well. I've not actually tried gathering on something that's not 80 for a while, so that's an interesting one that I've not heard about before from Sap. So thanks, Sap.
Chunk also said cannot use the mouse wheel or click the arrows to scroll up and down on the glyphs panel. I think I could use the arrows. I could scroll through it, but yeah, I couldn't use my mouse up or down to scroll through the glyph panel when I was trying to like redo my glyphs. That was
I hated that.
It was annoying, but like you could do it, but yeah, you had to go through the extra step. It wasn't convenient. Scottejaye also again cannot shift click spells into macros from the spell book.
I'm sorry, that's one of the most irritating bugs on the beta. It sounds so minor, but it is one of the most irritating things in the world. Like, you can't shift click things into chat, into the spell book, into a macro, into anything. And the amount of times I've been like stood in front of a boss about to pull and been like, shit, I forgot I'll make this macro, and then I use all my cooldowns.
Cannot put some spells in the action bar to click in book to cast. I don't know what spell Shock was talking about.
That'll be like the warlock stuff, the teleport stuff, I imagine.
Oh yeah. And then Tropic with another one about blood decay. I think Subtle might have touched on this one. Blood decay bloodworms talent spawns 4 worms on a successful proc instead of just 1. Please correct me if this is intended, and I'll delete it. But yeah, I think Subtle talked about that too. It's supposed to be 1 bloodworm for DKs now.
It's the Wrath bloodworms talent that's in Cata, so it's spawning like 2 to 4 rather than just 1 each time. Yeah.
Flo, the pet bar is grayed out as unholy DK. No pet spell tab. Ellie Shaman can have Wrath talent, the 10% spell power. Oh yeah, you were talking about this, Majay. 10% spell power stacked with 6% flame tongue totem for 16%.
Yeah, we've had conversations about this, and I don't think we're 100% sure even now. But, Willie, thoughts on that? So obviously, if you've got an Ellie Shaman or a demo lock bringing 10% spell power, and then you've got the mage, which is Arcane Brilliance, which brings 6% spell power. What do you know whether they're meant to stack or not meant to stack?
I was assuming Cata, they always just take the greater value and discard the lower value.
And that's exactly what Jay said. Whereas, like, when you look at a raid comp calculator or like anything, they like fall into different categories. So that's why I'm not even 100% sure myself whether it's a bug. Is it meant to be like it? Is it not meant to be like it?
I am 90% sure that the Totemic Wrath and Demonic Pact is supposed to overwrite the 6% spell power buffs. But I'm not 100% sure. So, like I said, I can't really comment too much on it. But yeah, I'm 90% sure that it's not supposed to.
I think it makes sense.
Because, I mean, they're trying to make buffs easier in Cata. That's one of the goals they did. And like, there's only a major armor debuff. There's 1 attack power debuff. There's 1 attack speed buff. there's like one buff for everything. There's spell power. It's like, oh, there's two actually.
So
No.
it kind of makes sense for there to be two, sort of, in that, here's the big one, and then there's, everyone can, like, every group's going to have a mage realistically, right? Or something that can bring the 6%. So I think it's like optimal comps, you get to bring the 10%, and then every comp gets the 6. But I'm almost sure back in the day you only got one of the buffs, but I'm not 1,000,000% sure.
And you were saying that you can currently get both?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
Which is like Ellie Shami is just kind of busted because you literally just bring both buffs yourself. I give myself like 650 spell power on the PTR right now at level 80.
Yeah, it's like Talons and Flame Tongue Tome, right?
Yeah.
It's I don't know. It doesn't quite seem right.
I think they at least shouldn't stack. Like, even though none of us are entirely sure what's right and what's wrong. But I feel like having it stacking with Arcane Brilliance or another class then just makes it more beneficial to take an Ellie Shaman or a demo lock, where you are actually getting further benefit from them being in a rage. You know what I mean? The same way now, you take you want a demo lock to get a big spell power buff. Yeah, I don't know. I genuinely don't know. I could sit here and just guess, but I've seen it on private servers where, it absolutely does not stack. We spoke about that, Jay. On white main, it does not stack. But they are under two different categories. So I'm just like, I don't know. Are they meant to, but they don't on white main?
So how would it work if a shaman had Arcane Brilliance? So they have an extra 6% spell power, and then they drop their totem. That's going to grant an extra 10% spell power. So
Yeah, they'll
gonna
get
benefit
16%.
from that 6%. Well, they wouldn't get 16%. I don't think.
Oh, you mean as in
they
they'd get 6% and then
And
10%
then
of the
10%
total overall.
on their totem.
So
yeah.
they all affect base values.
So you're getting literally
Right, so
16%.
You get whatever your spell power is, unbuffed, satin, Ogrimmar, nothing on.
Okay.
That is your base level spell power, and any increases work off that number. So you would get 16%. Like you're not going to get anything more. Like you're not going to be able to buff yourself with like the 6% and then get a bigger one with the 10% added afterwards or anything like that, or dropping stuff in specific orders.
Yeah.
Okay.
That sounds
anyway?
horrible.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. We ain't got to stick on that for too long because ultimately none of us are 100% sure. I'm sure if we do some real digging into, sort of 4.3 MMO champion posts and that, we could probably find out relatively quick. But at the moment, who knows?
We had a shaman, Elite Pete, Ellie Shaman, Elemental Precision Spirit converting to hit isn't showing on character stat sheet. It doesn't seem to be turning to hit at all. Last night and about an hour ago on both my shaman, it wasn't showing on the PTR. Never mind.
But it's beta.
It is beta. It's not working for me. Yeah, I'm just beta. Just checked again, and it's not showing any hit converting from spirit on my stat sheet. So we had like a spirit issue with Druid as well. If we spec'd into Balance of Power, it was giving us extra hit from our base spirit when it shouldn't have, and they fixed that. So I think it's just spirit with any class that had it changed with how it worked for him. And
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if
bugged.
the movement speed stat is correct in general. Like if you get the 310% mount speed, and you mount up on your character panel, it shows you are 380%.
Yeah, you might have to. I think you have to buy it. Do you have to? Is it like 4,000 something
You
gold?
can buy it, yeah.
You can't buy it. Yeah.
But yeah, it's and you have a move speed thing on your actual character panel now, and it said 380, not 310.
Nice.
Brilliant.
So yeah, I don't think it's correct in general.
Hey, look, I mean, we get pre-patch today, though, boys. So don't worry, it'll all be fixed.
Yeah.
You want me to keep going, Scott?
Yeah. I mean, maybe jump down to Jay's and then go back up. There's not many left. I mean, Jay, a guy called Majay posted saying Resto Shamans are being dropped from raids. Must be a bug. No.
Doesn't have a totem bar.
Oh, yeah, and you don't have a totem bar. I mean, that kind of sucks.
The totem bar does my friggin' head in because I'll put totems down and it will be like Earth Elemental, Fire Elemental, Elemental Resist Totem, and then Sentry Totem or something. Like, it's the most useless totems possible. That I never want any of them out in those situations, but they're the ones that will spawn.
Yeah, again,
Cade-
that'll be fixed tomorrow.
Cade Titan. This is a big one. Bear with me. The ones I check after every update. Unholy DK Festering Strike doesn't convert the proper runes to death. Gargoyle updates dynamically with haste, should snapshot. Gargoyle has uncapped GCD, should be capped. Blood DK Death Strike doesn't convert the proper runes to death. Blood DK Worms are using the Wrath Spawns 2 to 4, should always be 1. Engineering Tinkers are not discoverable. Yellow Profession Craft skill points are wonky. So yeah, a couple of those we've touched on. A couple of those are new ones.
Yeah, I mean, all the
so-
DK ones. Yeah,
Blobby's just made a good point, actually.
I've just pinned
Is-
it. Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah. That you would be at 380 because your base movement speed is 280 and the mount increases it by 100.
Other way around.
I don't know
Your
what I
base
said.
is 100 and your mount increases it by 280.
That's what I thought I said, but never mind. That's what I meant to say.
Oh, right, really? Okay, fair enough.
Well, no,
Yeah, I
but
didn't know
if
that
you're
either.
saying that you've bought the 310 and not gone up to
410.
410,
Yeah, it should be 410.
thank you, because I was struggling with that. Then potentially 310 mount speed is just broken in general as well.
Mine says 418. What do I do if mine says 418?
Have you
You're
got
just
8%
really
movement
fast.
speed talent?
Talent? I
Oh,
don't think
enchant?
so.
Are you on a druid
Boot
right now?
enchant? I'm on a druid right now. Yeah.
There shouldn't be any additional move speed. Unless
My-
feral?
My flight
Yeah.
form says 318.
Do you have that feral talent that increased movement speed by
No.
15%?
318. That's a whole different number
No,
entirely.
it says 310. I'm sorry, it says 310. Flight form says 310, but I
Oh,
go to
that's
my
right.
I go to my character sheet and it says 418.
Okay, well that's not.
Okay,
It
so,
is-
It'll be fixed today, guys.
Yeah.
My run speed is 200%.
You're just
My
you're just a
swim
fa-
speed
you're
is
just a fast
67.
guy.
Hey, I'll take any speed
it's
boost
fast
I
as
can
fuck,
get.
boy.
Hell yeah.
It's just
Yeah,
numbers.
418.
But with the DK thing specifically, the one thing I can mention about that is that Gargoyle dynamically updating with haste was the change they made in Wrath. It usually snapshotted, but they actively nerfed it during Wrath because it was too good. It was too powerful, so they changed it to be dynamic. So if it's not fully snapshotting, that is a sort of legacy Wrath of the Lich King classic nerf. Which
And also dots,
should not be in the game, I
dots,
guess.
dots don't snapshot anyway. They do update dynamically in Cata anyway. You know, like if you're mind flaying into a Shadow Word Pain, you know, you can't keep a really powerful Shadow Word Pain going anymore. It literally will update on every tick.
We've got a bug for warriors. Heroic leap does not work on elevated surfaces.
Fuck warriors.
So any hills or stairs tend to bug it out. Yeah, good. Stay downstairs, fucking warriors. You can go down there.
Wow, I can feel the warrior hate in the room.
Oh, yeah, dude, I still have PTSD of that warrior that was killing me while they were just killing mobs and full healing off of that whatever that talent is.
I've got
You kill
I've got
something, victory
PTSD
rush.
from Battle with the Blues, where there was a warrior with 1.5 million health. Shadow step into me and one shot him by slash waving.
Yeah. Feral tank threat multiplier doesn't work, so if you're a feral tank, good luck tanking tomorrow in ICC. I hope you do well.
I've heard this is a real issue right now. Like, there's groups where Feral is topping damage as the tank and still can't hold aggro.
Yeah, abilities that have different versions for cat and bear don't show up in the spellbook most of the time. Well, they shouldn't, right? Different for because there's no ranks anymore. Namely, Mangle, Skull Bash, Swipe, and Stampeding Roar. I don't know what that means. What, Scotty?
Hang on, I want to address the chat first. They're saying dots do
okay.
snapshot in Cata. I mean, they don't. Well, they shouldn't. Dots update
I
all
thought they
player-based values. Haste spell power crit upon cast or refresh. When you cast the dot, the client takes your current combat values and buffs and computes the spell duration, ticks, crit rate, and damage. These values then remain until the dot is refreshed, at which time the new values are applied. So if you are literally channeling something like Mind Flay that would refresh Shadow Word Pain will recalculate its value every time your Mind Flay refreshes it.
So yes, but for something like DK dots, if
You're not refreshing it, you're extending it.
you're not. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be different. Yeah, that would be different. Yeah, so if you're
But,
Festering Strike is extending it, it's not refreshing it. Anything that
consider, like,
refreshes don't
Warlock-
snapshot.
Consider like Warlock Curse of Agony. That's going to snapshot for its duration, isn't it?
It shouldn't.
Yeah,
You just won't reapply it.
I mean, I thought snapshotting existed to Legion. Like in Mr. Pandaria, there was a trinket from Lei Shen that gave you 100% crit for 3 seconds. And like very famously, Warlocks could use
Yeah.
and get 100% crit, and it would guaranteed spawn an imp every time they did so. I feel like this existed for quite a while.
I'll send you as a link in the group chat of a full breakdown. Well, I mean, I can just show it on screen. It's literally got a full breakdown of every examples for Warlock dot refreshes versus snapshots. Like, there's a very big difference between extending and refreshing in Cata.
Right, yeah. If it's extending, because again, the Cata, not the mop example was you just put the debuff up once. Whilst you have a buff, you don't refresh it.
Yeah. So snapshotting exists in the Curse of Agony is like the perfect example because you don't refresh it. You only refresh it as like a recast of it, right?
As a recast, yeah.
So it's going to snapshot for the duration of its uptime, and then when you reapply it, it'll work out your stats at the point of recasting it.
Yeah. So it even compares it here to... That's absolutely right. So it even compares it here to Wrath. In Wrath, dot values would be set on cast, but not on refresh. So refreshing a spell maintained the value it was originally cast with, leading DPS players to pre-pot and trinket before entering combat, blow trinkets before refreshing dots, and generally make an initial cast as powerful as possible so the refresh mechanics could maintain that high damage dot. That is not... So that's what I mean about corruption. It's... Yeah, no, it doesn't renew it. It refreshes it, Quicktoes. So it says here, any Warlock who cleared their corruption with Seed of Corruption just to take advantage of Never Melting Ice Crystal remembers what I'm talking about. You can boost your DPS by huge amounts. But if you're refreshing it by using Shadow Bolt, it will then recalculate based on your stats at the point of that refresh. If whatever you've seen on private servers, if you've seen it on private servers where it doesn't work like that, I would say that's wrong, because this is literally I use this website from historic cataclysm for historic cataclysm content all the time, and it's always bang on, and it's a Warlock specific blog. And yeah, there's a difference between extending and refreshing. If you're refreshing a dot, it will take your current stats.
And that's tied to the pandemic mechanic, right? With dots, where if it's got one tick left and then you refresh it, you would get the damage from that last tick after you refreshed it. It would be like that damage would be built in somehow. Is that right?
That's a good... Sorry, yeah, that's right, Go. That's exactly right. But also, what Kaelin just said is absolutely right. Like, it doesn't... It recalculates the crit. Sorry, it doesn't recalculate the crit. It only it keeps the crit, but it still recalculates the haste and spell power. So you can keep like big critted snapshots, but I think that even goes in Cata. As I say, it's been a while since I read through this, but the only reason I could pull it up so quick is because I had it favorited. Because I've had this argument with so many different people.
Yeah.
But yeah. So just bear that in mind. Like, snapshotting is kind of still a thing, and you still would, to me, a snapshot is like, let's say I'm on a feral druid and all my my trinkets have procced, and I've got like 1 second, 2 seconds, whatever left on rip. I'd reapply rip, and I know my rip is now going to benefit from those trinkets for the rest of the duration of rip. Whereas if I was then at execute phase and I was to ferocious bite to refresh that rip, it would now calculate it based on the stats that I've got.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've heard that pandemic is bugged, at least for boomies. It's kind of like dots not critting. We also don't have that pandemic effect as well. So.
Shocker.
Yeah, hopefully that's working tomorrow.
That'll be fixed today, though.
I don't think
today.
pandemic as an effect is a thing to what?
I
You're
don't know.
talking about refreshing your debuffs and then like gaining an extra bonus.
Yeah. Like if I were to have Moonfire get down to its last tick and then re-Moonfire before it drops off, I've heard that was something for Cata.
I don't think that's the thing to WOD. Pandemic as a talent is a thing for Affliction Locks in MOP.
Yeah. People were just like calling it pandemic, just that style of ability, like dot refresh.
I remember making a video before Wrath that was saying, yo, Blizzard, make a pandemic baseline for all dot classes. It's just better.
Yeah.
I stand by this, by the way. It's more fun than refreshing after your dot runs out.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of snapshotting as well in terms of the demo warlock doing like pet weaving and like even paladins, it's kind of snapshotting, using 4 set tier to get a longer Guardian of Ancient Kings, shamans getting the extra haste. Is it Resto? I think it's Resto.
You use the Resto Dragon Soul tier to get the Spirit Walker's Grace.
Yeah, so there's still that. Like it's more. Yeah, I think people are gonna. Well, I'm saying, like, you got to remember, I'm saying this as it was in Cataclysm. In Classic, who fucking knows? Like, literally, we might be snapshotting dots and it's working exactly as people expect it to work in Wrath, and maybe we can even snapshot spell power on dots when we're refreshing them. Who knows? But all I'm saying, like, I've looked into that a lot, and how it does work and how people are expecting it to work, I do think are actually quite different.
All right, so to try to keep it on the healer topic, I've heard that we can snapshot our mastery. Like, you're supposed to have like a mastery set pre-pull, and like use your mastery to snapshot stuff. Can healers like Priest use their mastery to have like a bigger shield pre-pull, and then right before the boss gets pulled, you swap your gear set from your mastery set to whatever you planned on healing with, and then you would have like a higher mastery bubble on your tank or something like that?
That sounds like a fucking lot of effort, man, that no one's going to do.
Really fucking min-maxy, I know, but
Holy Pally might be able to do it.
Yeah,
I think that Holy Pally, the mastery, I think it used to cap out way, way higher than they nerfed it.
It did, yeah. It used to be busted.
Yeah. And then, Blizzard were like, okay, this is too good, we're going to nerf. It's same with, I was looking at the Disc Priest stuff, and Power Word Barrier used to be an AoE Power Word Shield, which made more sense for their mastery. And they changed it for one reason or another. But yeah, it sounds like a lot of it. Honestly, a lot of this pre-doing stuff before combat, I highly, highly doubt it's going to work.
I hope it all gets removed.
That.
Remove it all. Honestly,
I think it's going to all get ripped out. I don't think Blizzard likes it at all.
The thing is, I just feel bad
weird stuff
for my raid team, because when I'm like, guys, I'm taking 2 4 set tiers before you get any. Like, I'll feel guilty for maybe 6 or 7 seconds, and then.
You'll be a rogue before it matters anyway.
New legend is going in 4.3. Why do you think I'm leveling a rogue in the pre-patch? Not just a hat rack, my friend. Quick toes. That's Cata, mate. Yeah, that'll be pre-patch. So today, when dot clipping, so it's where, as long as you refresh the dot between the final tick and the penultimate tick, it will then add the final tick's duration onto the dot. But that's what they was talking about earlier in terms of like pandemic mechanic. That's not actually working, but that should be Cata. So in general, everyone handles hots and dots differently. at the moment in Wrath, you always wait for them to expire before you refresh them.
Yeah.
And you want to refresh them as close to it expiring as possible. But yeah, that's not how it works in Cata. You're wanting to actually refresh it a second before the final tick, and then that just transfers over.
All right, Majay, Willie, anything else for healers that you guys wanted to bring up while we're all sat here together?
I would actually like to ask a question, if you haven't got anything, Willie.
No, yeah, go ahead.
Do you guys think there'll be any benefit or like reason to bring hybrid DPS classes as like off healers in Cata?
Oh god, he's trying to fucking angle him for enhance fucking what's it called?
I'm not giving it to you. You think
Heal Hunts.
Oh, some guilds are doing that on Lich King.
Yeah,
see?
that's Jay's angle. Trust me, that's exactly what he wants you to tell him as well.
They press the buttons, then they press chain heal.
It is so good in Cata as well. Like, I'm going to be healing heroics as enhance.
I know there was a Resto Cat build too in Wrath for a couple of phases where ferals were trying to heal with their little proc and stuff, but I haven't heard if there's going to be a feral healer spec in Cata.
See, I do love that go. See, that's what I love about the classic community when they like to, they sort of. I love the min-maxing and the whole, Discord conversations that go on, but they talk like it's never been done before, and that happens a lot. What they basically tried to recreate was it might even be MOP, where you every instant, every predatory swiftness, you're using a healing touch on someone or yourself to buff your next two abilities. Blood talons. Yeah, I mean,
I hate that ability.
I love that playstyle. Actually, I really did like that playstyle. But most druids used it wrong, as in they would just literally just healing touch their self. But if you're actually putting the heals on the tank or somewhere where they're useful, it made feral DPS not only pump, but also like a really good sort of just extra, getting extra heals for free. But that's essentially what they tried to do in Wrath without the additional benefit of the druid getting any gain from it whatsoever.
All right, well,
yeah.
Since I have you here, Willie, I have to ask, what are you looking forward to the most out of Cataclysm Classic? Because you're switching from DPS to healer, so I'm really curious what you're most interested in.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of going back to where I started in a way. So I used to play healer back in this expansion. I played healer from Cataclysm up till I guess the Legion. I swapped to DPS because I was like, oh, I want to see what this is like. So it's I guess I think for me I put this expansion and the content more on a pedestal than I have with anything beforehand. And I think part of the reason is I did more of this back in the day than I ever did with anything we've already done. And I think there are a lot more expectations for difficulty and progression. And especially with progression, I'm looking forward to getting back towards that. So I just want an environment where I can play a healer, I can perform well, and even on farm raids, when we start to drop healers, I can continue to have fun in the raid and feel like it's getting more challenging. So really just everything about playing healer in this expansion. I think that Cataclysm is like the expansion to start playing healer in if you want a challenge from healing.
Oh, definitely.
Well, just not to make it sound awkward. Sorry, hang on. I need to make things awkward. You weren't making things awkward, but I definitely am going to. Obviously, I for one, am just so fucking happy that you're playing Cata, really. Like when you look at the amount of classic content creators that have come and gone, the amount that have jumped shipped onto other games, not even necessarily Season of Discovery. Obviously, a lot of them Season of Discovery. But, others have just disappeared either off the face of the earth completely or to other games. Like, I absolutely love the fact that you're covering Cata and playing Cata and looking forward to Cata and not just, because it's very easy to, people probably don't realise that it's very easy to just follow the crowd and be like, oh, I'll make myself enjoy Season of Discovery because that's what people want to watch. But no, fuck that. I'll play what I enjoy. I enjoy Cata. I'm looking forward to Cata. I'm going to make Cata content. So, like, I've got so much respect.
Especially with how I do the class videos, I think I've about 3.5 hours overall, and I write everything. It's a lot. I have an editor, right? I've not been trying to hide that, but see, I could get if I was trying to go after views or anything, I would have stuck with Season of Discovery. It wouldn't even be a decision, and there'd be a lot more people watching that. But at the end of the day, this is a game mode that at this point in time I'm more interested in.
I love
one
that.
I hope people give a chance, and one that I believe in. I'm looking forwards to myself, so that's why I've continued to make content on it, and I will be continuing to do so. I'm always going to cover like classic broadly in terms of what's going on at the moment, but if there's a lot going on for whether it's Cata or Mr. Pandaria after that, I don't see why I wouldn't be covering that.
Awesome. Go, you was going to say something?
Yeah, Majay, the same thing. You've played tons of private servers. You've gone through Wrath of the Lich, or you've gone through Cata, multiple times. So what are you looking forward to the most in Cata Classic?
Weirdly, it's going to be like that pre-raid. That pre-raid gearing, like going through all the heroics and actually like getting the dopamine of constant upgrades. Like the whole expansion's good, but that like immediate rush, trying to get all your reps capped, trying to get all the quests done for the different zones, and like it's just such a rush to try and get everything done, and I really enjoy it. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that first couple of weeks, and then hopefully actually like progging and clearing heroic bosses quickly.
What are you looking forward to, Go?
Oh, see, thanks. I was going to ask you, but I'm kind of on the same foot as Jay there. I've been doing all this theory crafting and stuff in the Balanced Druid Discord with other boomies that are really interested in that, and I've been looking at like the best profession or the best reputation route, the best rotation. There's so many different variations of how Balanced Druid rotation could play out to benefit us. We don't really have a sim right now. Like ours has not been worked on at all, which that's totally fine. Like the other classes and specs have some sort of a sim right now that they can kind of reference. I could use the Wayback Machine or whatever the thing that you use, Scotty. That's not the Wayback Machine, but I could try to use that, but that's just too much work. But like I just love this whole theory crafting. I do agree for the whole phase 1 of a new expansion to have like a delayed raid release. So I think we kind of got that confirmed earlier with our news from the Blue Post that it's not going to be available on launch to just immediately level up to 85 and go in the raid. I like that like 1 week, 2 week delay where we can kind of min-max and get our pre-raid bis. And then after that, I like having the raid from like phase 1 to phase 2 opened immediately. So you could just go in there right away, and like there's no phase 2 launch and then you have to wait 2 days afterwards to go into the raid. Like none of that stuff. But yeah, like I'm just excited for the first 10 days, 8 days, whatever it is for launch. Pre-patch leveling up, it's kind of in the same vein because I have to re-roll a different race this time. Like I haven't had to re-roll from Tauren Druid to another Tauren Druid, from Classic to TBC, TBC to Wrath. But now I have to re-roll to Troll, and I'm looking forward to going through. I did it already on the beta, but it was fun. Some quests were bugged, so I didn't really get to experience the zones fully. And now I can do that tomorrow on launch. I can level up my Troll. I can go to Stone Talon Mountains. That quest has been fixed where you couldn't shoot down the stuff in the zone to progress through it. I retested it on my level 74 Druid. I went back and I was like, there was a couple quests that were bugged when I leveled up. And I made sure that all those bugged quests were fixed, and they have been. So that's what I'm looking forward to. Leveling up a fresh tune pretty much and going through everything like from level 1 in Cata. We're not going to get fresh servers. If we were, I would imagine they were going to announce it. So this is the closest thing I will ever have in Classic, I think, to having like a fresh tune. And it's exciting and it's also scary. I have to do professions from scratch as well. I've been trying to do the same thing that Scotty was doing, like pre-gathering all my cloth and engineering mats and stuff like that. And that's been a lot of work, but I think it'll pay off.
What
Cool.
do you mean you're not gonna? I was gonna make a joke. I can't even remember what the joke is. I'm tired. Genuinely, I got halfway through that sentence and my brain just stopped. So it can't have been that funny.
Well, can I get some appreciation for my segues when I spit them out, Jay? 'Cause I haven't flubbed one yet. I've had 3 segues the past 3 shows, and they've been flawless. And I'm just gonna toot my own horn on them.
I don't know about flawless.
Flawless is maybe pushing it.
Okay.
What are you looking forward to, Scott?
Yeah.
In actual Cata, I mean, I'm actually quite secretly, I'm more excited about pre-patch. But that's because of mine and Jay's plans that we've got going on, and like I love doing duo streams. Like streaming on your own, it's great fun. Don't get me wrong, you get to talk to chat a lot more and all of that. But yeah, me and Jay are going hard for a few days in the pre-patch, doing literally everything together. We're like going to be glued at the hip, so it's just going to be a lot of fun. But in actual launch, there's 2 things. Firstly, just to echo what Jay said, like I love the initial 2 to 3 weeks of every launch. It's always the most fun. You're trying to get as much gear as possible. You're going like disgusting amounts of effort to just do whatever you can to have as much gear as possible. You know, most people, even me, you know, I used to book time off work. And to a certain extent, if you consider doing YouTube videos work, you know, I've got videos that are already planned that I'm going to make sure are going out over the first week of launch, so I haven't got to think about YouTube and I can just focus on playing the game and that, you know. Slightly, I know it's slightly different, but I just love the ridiculous lengths and the lack of sleep that we all get during any launch, because it's just fun. But over the actual course of the expansion, I'll be honest with you, the one thing I'm really looking forward to is leveling and playing nearly every class. You know, on the basis that 10-man is so accessible and there's going to be 10-man normal pugs going all the time, you know, I'm looking forward to actually just like going, oh, fuck it, I'm going to go and join a 10-man pug on my warlock. I'm going to go and do a 25-man pug on my hunter. You know, the fact that there's so many different raids, none of them are like really long, so it's not like you're joining an ICC. You know, you're joining like a BWD that's only got 6 bosses or whatever. You know, you're in there for a smaller amount of time. So actually just playing more classes in Cata is what I'm looking forward to. And you've got to have more, aren't you? On the basis that you can only do 10 or 25, so you're almost forced to have more characters anyway.
And there's a lot less trash in raids as well, which I love.
Oh,
I hate trash. Yeah, of course you do, Boomy. You press Starfall.
I love AoE trash. Yeah, well, I'm not going to hit Starfall and Cata. I'm going to be hitting mushrooms. And yeah, any chance I can see some big damage from my mushrooms, like hell yeah.
Yeah, all right, well, I think we can round that out. That was a really, really fun episode. I feel like we covered far more than we actually set out to cover in this. It was meant to be all about healers.
News.
Yeah, we got news which kept interrupting it, but I feel like they were good. They were better segues than yours. So, overall, it was solid.
I've been limiting myself to one like good segue per show. Expect more next show. I'm planning them out.
Are you trying to make sure no one comes back?
You've brought this on. We've had more people tuning live this show than any other show.
Yeah, but that's not because of your segues. That's because Willie's here.
No. It's absolutely from the segue.
It's the segue. It's all the segue.
And for those that didn't hear it live, so back when I was bowling, yeah.
Right. Well, can you? No, don't. Can you just round us out instead, so I can go and eat pizza and go to bed?
All right. So pre-patch is live in like 19 hours. So Wednesday for NA, we usually have shows Wednesdays at 6 p.m. Eastern. I don't think we're going to have a show tomorrow night. We had planned for Thursday, so we give ourselves like one day after the pre-patch launch. I don't know what's in store for that show yet, but just keep an eye out for when we go live. Who knows? We could go live tomorrow night. If it's a delayed launch or we get some crazy news, we could go live randomly. And yeah, we'll see how it goes. And then it's full Cata. There's no sod. Sod's gone. This is not a sod podcast. There's plenty other sod podcasts. You can go check them out and give them their support. But yeah, Majay, thanks for coming back again and talking about some healer stuff. Willie, great to have you again, as always. Many people have pointed out that they've picked up on the fact that we're actually brothers. So it's nice to have my brother back on the show.
It is what it is. I've got to support for sure.
So I've got one final question, but it's unfortunately a two-parter for you, Willie. The first part is, would you mind telling everyone where they can find you? And the second part is not really a question, it's more of a request. Please tell me you're going to be streaming some Cataclysm at either pre-patch or launch.
Yeah, so, damn, for me, it's mainly just on the YouTube, at Will E. And for the streaming, honestly, the main reason I haven't been streaming is because I kind of ran out of things to do in Season of Discovery.
After the first day of launch of the new phase.
I didn't stream the incursions, and I did the incursion, and I was like, wow, I don't want to stream this. So that was that. And I was like, damn, it's a lot of effort getting all the videos out for the Cata stuff. I doubt I'm going to stream on midnight or anything. I just can't be bothered. But yeah, I'll probably stream a bit after that.
As long as I can expect some Cata streams, I need to see some. I need some Cata streams from you.
Yeah, it'll be on the Holy Paladin, a bit on the Warlock. There's probably going to be a lot of archaeology early on though, so I don't know if I'm going to be streaming that. To be fair,
True.
Awesome, and Majay, my man.
I'm just on YouTube because I have the internet of, the 1920s until I move, and then I will have streaming potential. But yeah, the Chamois the Ellie Chamois Encyclopedia video is coming out soon, which is pretty fun. And so, and like I said, I'll also be following Scott around like a lost puppy for the next 3-4 days.
I can't wait.
And none of the links are in the description, but Scotty's on it. He's going to fix it. It's got me and Subtle, but Subtle is magically going to change to Majay and
I'll do
Willie.
it now. I'll do it now. Sorry, I've been lazy. I'm doing it as you round us out. So go. What about you? Where can people find you?
People I think have actually stopped by. I've been recently streaming on Twitch again. It's been a while. I've usually streamed on YouTube, but I've given Twitch another chance. And yeah, you can find me on either YouTube at youtube.com/@classicgo. That's CLASSICGHO. The same for Twitter, or not Twitter. Twitch. I screwed it up. Scotty, let me redo it. All right, so everybody, you can find me at...
I won't even fucking listen, man.
I want to know what a Twitter fuck is, to be honest.
Twitter fuck. So Twitter is Go Wow, GHOWOW. I do a little Twitter stuff. I don't really know what to do. I'm too late to the game, but I've tried to do it for the last month. I'm following people, so if you want to follow, give us a follow.
Did you do the arm pump? I weren't looking.
I did the arm pump.
Did you do the arm pump? Yeah. But I didn't see it. I'm so annoyed. Awesome. Okay, guys. I don't normally shout myself out, but as I say, I'm really looking forward to the kick stream with Majay for the first few days of pre-patch starting technically today for us. So I will just shout myself out just for a change. Kick.com/Scottejaye. I will say my stream is not for everyone. I just want to put that out now. Much like my videos are not for everyone, but the stream is less so for everyone because there will be a lot of drinking, there will be a lot of swearing, there will be a lot of degeneracy. There'll be, do you know what I mean? It's like it's not for everyone. If you enjoy the videos and you like, it's unfiltered. If you want to keep the image of me as I am, then maybe don't watch me on stream. But if you want to see what I'm really like, then pop by. Kick. That's all I can say. Great.
It involves wheels.
Yep. There's going to be a wheel. There's going to be challenges. So throughout the 3 days, me and Jay are going to be doing challenges in game, out of game, as I say, lots of beers and stuff going as well. Lots of blindfolds. Lots of there's stuff. All right, there's going to be stuff. That's all I'm going to say. It's all planned out already. We spent all last night planning the stream, so hopefully it at least ends up being a bit of a banger. Okay,
Banger. No.
Yeah, let's go. Yeah, take it easy, guys. Much love. Thank you if you've watched all the way through. I mean, maybe get yourself checked in somewhere.
Don't say it.
What? Okay,
yeah. If you have to ask, then yep. Let's move it on. Thanks for hanging out, everybody. Yeah, I'm not going to see comments that no, I'm not even. Nope, I'm not even going to lead you on to it.
All right, cool. Take it easy, guys. Peace out, chat. Bye.
Cheers.